What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 5mm Chapter 91, People with Great Luck, please customize. Advertisement. Shanks and Buggy struggled for a long time, but still couldn't find any good solution. However, at this moment, Buggy suddenly gritted his teeth and his expression immediately became ferocious. Rather than being caught by Marine and impelled down here, why not let's fight? When he said this, Buggy thought of the legendary impel down and couldn't help but shudder. He would rather die than go impelled down. His dream hasn't come true yet, so how can he waste time and impel down? The members of the Roger Pirates heard Buggy's words, and they all came over, wanting to hear what Buggy thought. At this moment, Buggy caught everyone's attention. However, facing such a scene, Buggy became unusually nervous. After all, to him, these people here are all partners and seniors. After taking a look at the hurricane that was already covered with layers of ice and was getting stronger, Buggy cleared his throat. We need to use the power of the wind? The power of the wind? Everyone was a little confused and didn't quite understand what Buggy's words meant. What do you want to do? Shanks looked at Buggy suspiciously. He knew Buggy very well 27, and he had a premonition in his heart the moment Buggy spoke. At this moment, what Buggy proposed is definitely not a good plan. Yes, the power of the wind, we must let the hurricane help the Jackson escape from the ice. Buggy said, but he became a little nervous, actually. He knew very well that his plan was quite risky. Once they operate improperly, it is very likely that their end will be extremely miserable. At this time, Buggy had no idea whether these people would agree to him. How to do it exactly? Rayleigh then became interested. He had been briefly treated by Crocus at this time, and the wound was no longer a big problem. Seeing Rayleigh approaching, Buggy was extremely nervous, but in order to help people like him get out of this desperate situation, Buggy gritted his teeth and revealed his plan. We need to open the sails. The power of the strong wind can push the Jackson out of the ice, leave here, and return to the sea. How can this be? Advertisement. Shanks immediately screamed. This is too risky. No, we absolutely can't do this. If the ship hadn't been blocked by ice now, we would have been blown into the sky by this hurricane immediately. Do you think we can go to Sky Island from here? There is a high probability that the sail was broken by the force of the hurricane. Without the sail, even if the wind and waves calm down, we will not be able to continue sailing on the sea. Many members of the Roger Pirates expressed their opinions. However, among these people, no one agreed with Buggy's idea. They all thought that this method was too risky and would almost never succeed. Indeed, at this time, the hurricane was getting bigger and bigger, and even those on the ship were prevented from being blown into the sky because of the presence of the Jackson. The Jackson was only preserved because it was frozen here. Everyone knows very well that once the ice is broken, the Jackson will take them into the sky in an instant. Moreover, once the sails are opened, it is hard to say whether the hurricane drove the Jackson to break through the ice, or whether the sails broke. At least, they can't open the sails until the Jackson is freed from the ice. Do you have any other ideas? Buggy jumped anxiously, but in order to make everyone agree with his plan, he still explained it. That's what I want. Anyway, we have no other way to get out of trouble now. If we stay here, we will die. We might as well fight for it. Speaking of which, Buggy's expression suddenly became serious. At least, giving it a try is much better than us dying here or being imprisoned and impelled down. Everyone didn't know what to say for a while, this moment. They all somewhat agreed with Buggy's words. Yes, they are members of the Roger Pirates. How can you sit here and wait for death? This plan of yours requires a lot of luck. Rayleigh said with a sad look on her face, however. Regarding this, Buggy is not too worried. Captain Roger has been very lucky anyway, hasn't he? With Captain Roger here, we will definitely be able to escape. These words left everyone unable to find any reason. There is no more difficult situation than this. At least if they fight hard, they will have new hope. Advertisement. Okay, I think it's feasible. I also agree that sitting still and waiting for death is not the style of our Roger Pirates. Buggy, you have a lot of skills. In the end, even Shanks had to agree with Buggy's plan. Okay, Buggy, I believe you this time. Shanks patted Buggy on the shoulder, and then a smile appeared on his face. Rayleigh on the side laughed twice at this time, attracting everyone's attention. No, we actually believe in Roger's luck. Rayleigh laughed and said, not caring about the wounds on her body. Hear this. Everyone suddenly realized. Almost all the crew inherited their adventurous spirit from Captain Roger. After all, every decision made by the captain seems to have some kind of luck, which makes them reverse the desperate situation. This time, I hope it will be the same, and at this time. Roger holds the famous sword ace, and Garp has armament hockey wrapped around his iron fists. The battle is inextricable. Actually, at this point in the battle, both of them had suffered serious injuries. This time, it was really a life and death battle, and both of them tried their best. Both of them had reasons not to fight. Roger knows very well that once he loses here, the rest of Roger's pirate group may not be able to stop Garp the Fist, who is full of fighting spirit. And Garp also knew that once he was defeated by Roger, who has his hands free, will probably help Golden Lion to deal with Chen. Garp thinks, for the sake of his stupid brother, he has to do his best. God avoids. Roger took a step back and quickly swung a flying slash that entangled hockey. Not to be outdone, Garp came out with a pair of black iron fists as big as a casserole, and actually blocked Roger's divine dodge. Boom. After the fierce collision, while countless ice dust was stirred up, the two of them took a step back, breathing heavily. Captain Roger, however, that's when a voice came from far away. Chapter 92. Roger's group's escape plan, please customize. Advertisement. Boom. Roger swung out with the long sword that surrounded the conquerors, forcing Garp's fists back, and immediately turned to look at the Jackson. I saw a group of crew members looking over at the side of the ship. Everyone's expressions were filled with anxiety, excitement, and even some fear. The storm became faster and more violent, rocking the Jackson. Whoosh! Suddenly, a person jumped up on the boat and flew towards Roger at high speed. It was none other than the crew member of his own pirate group, Bankuro. And Bankuro is the person sent by Rayleigh to find Roger. Roger looked at Bankuro, who was running at full speed and was a little out of breath, and a bad thought flashed in his mind. What happened? Fortunately, he found that Bankuro didn't look panicked. How is the situation now? And at this time, Bankuro has also started reporting to Roger. Mr. Rayleigh has brought Mr. Jabba and the others back to the ship, but they were all seriously injured. If they hadn't run away, they would have been here. Bankuro looked at Roger seriously and said, "Finish saying this." Roger was silent for a moment, but then, a smile appeared on his face again. "Don't worry, I will definitely help you survive." In Roger's eyes, at this time, it seems that we have reached a desperate situation. However, so what if the situation is desperate? In the past days, the Roger Pirates have encountered desperate situations more than once, but didn't they survive every time? Even if it's for those friends, just to be able to drink wine with them again. We can't just despair like this. Bankuro was a little touched. This was the reason why they trusted Roger so much. But soon, Bankuro returned to normal. He knew that there was no time to waste now. Boy Buggy came up with a very risky plan, Bankuro said. In order not to let Marine hear their plan, he deliberately approached Roger and told Roger Buggy's plan in a low voice. Only, before coming, Bankuro actually knew what kind of attitude their captain would have. After all, such a plan is actually in line with their captain's wishes. Really, advertisement. When Bankuro finished speaking, Roger burst out laughing immediately. Ha ha ha, that's awesome. You are indeed my Roger's partner. This plan is very good. Bankuro was about to cry, but he knew that this would be the result. But, now that they have agreed to this plan, it actually means that they are all ready. This is indeed a good plan now. Therefore, soon, Bankuro regained his composure. In this case, Captain, you must get out as soon as possible. Bankuro looked at Roger with a serious expression and said, I know. Roger waved his hand and said with a cheerful smile on his face. Go tell Rayleigh and let them go ahead and do it. After getting the captain's consent, Bankuro turned around and ran in the direction of the Jackson without saying a word. When Bankuro walked away, Garp grinned and said with clenched fists. You can still laugh when you are in a desperate situation. It seems like you have some plan. But as long as I am here, I will never let you escape, otherwise it would be too embarrassing for my brother. Roger twitched his curly beard and seemed to be in a good mood, grinning. Ha ha ha, Garp, if you want to stop me, just try it. The words fell. Roger had no reservations anymore. He swung his famous sword ace, and an extremely powerful flying slash appeared from it. With unparalleled power, it flew quickly towards Garp. Garp was not careless. The moment the flying slash appeared, he suddenly slammed the fists wrapped around armament hockey into the ground. This time, the ice surface, which was not stable due to the battle between the two, collapsed instantly. Garp stepped on a piece of ice to gain strength, rushed into the air, then caught the falling giant ice with both hands, and threw it in the direction of Roger and flying slash. Reality. Roger, who fought Garp before, didn't try his best and the fight wasn't smooth. Only because Roger had to save his strength to be prepared for any accidents happening to his partners. This is not a glorious battle, and there is no need to risk the lives of too many partners for it. However, now he knows that his companion is not in much danger. And there is a way out. Now that Roger has no worries, he will naturally have a hearty battle with Garp. Certainly, this can be regarded as buying some time for the partners who are working hard. Moment. Garp and Roger fought together. The noise caused by the fight between the two was actually a bit more exaggerated than the fight between Chen and Golden Lion on the other side. Advertisement at least, judging from the battle scenes and destructive power, this is indeed the case. And at this time, the captain agreed. Bankuro passed through the ice and snowstorm and said immediately after returning to the Jackson. Hear the words. Everyone on the boat looked excited and a little scared. Bullet, it's up to you. At this time, Rayleigh turned his head and shouted towards the wild young man with golden curly hair. TCH, if it weren't for Roger, I wouldn't be willing to help you. Bullet sneered and immediately jumped off the Jackson. When he reached a certain distance, he suddenly opened his hands. Boom. The huge suction force acted on the hull of the Jackson, causing the pirate ship to appear dynamic in an instant. With the blizzard, the shaking became more violent. Finally there was a loud bang. The entire pirate ship was completely freed from the ice. But everyone didn't have time to be happy yet. Next second, the pirate ship broke away from the ice and slid out like an arrow, almost sinking into the blizzard. Ha! Bullet yelled, and the fusion fruit's ability was activated instantly. A burst of blue light flashed, and a large area of purple, like a data stream, covered the Jackson. The huge pirate ship was held in place and unable to move. As expected, he is worthy of being called the descendant of the devil by Captain Roger. Such strength is really desirable. Shanks raised his hand to press the straw hat, feeling surprised in his heart. Li Hao. As the successor of Captain Roger's will, Shanks believes that one day he will be able to possess such strength by relying on himself. And at this time, everyone cheered. Bullet, well done. Well done, you saved all our lives. The pirates cheered. Rayleigh and Jabba stood aside, smiling and saying nothing. They all know that Bullet is a distrustful nuisance to them. But what's the point? As long as they are recognized by Captain Roger, everyone can trust them unconditionally. This is their Roger Pirates. Quick, get on the boat, we must leave quickly. Bullet snorted, turned away from them, and shouted in a deep voice. I can't hold it anymore. A violent wind and snow swept across the world, and even with the support of the fusion fruit, the Jackson was still gliding slowly on the ice. One can imagine. How terrible is this extreme climate storm? Chapter 93. This level can't help Lu Chen, please customize. Advertisement. In fact, Bullet didn't lie, although the Jackson briefly indirectly covered the fusion capability. But it doesn't really integrate into itself. For Bullet, the Jackson cannot be driven and will like itself. Therefore, in such a terrifying extreme storm, he could not guarantee that he could sustain it for too long. After all, Bullet is still young at this time and his physical strength is not as strong as in the original work. If it takes a long time, it will easily become exhausted, causing the pirate ship to completely lose control and be directly overturned by the hurricane into the sky. Therefore, for the Roger Pirates at this time, they must seize the time to break free from Marine's entanglement and board the Jackson. Buggy, we will. Shanks was the first to bear the brunt, pulling Buggy and immediately climbed onto the mast with his flexible body. As long as the sails are lowered, with the current terrifying wind force, the Jackson can fly away immediately. However, once the sail is lowered, it means the future is left to fate. Roger. Rayleigh stood on the side of the ship, turned his head and shouted towards the battlefield in the distance. The sound penetrated the storm and resounded throughout the world. I only saw that in the 273 battlefield, the invisible energy suddenly stopped for a moment. Ha ha ha, Garp, I really want to continue fighting with you, but I'm sorry, I have to go. Roger swung his sword to force Garp back, then used both legs to force his body back in an instant without any hesitation. If it were before, he would definitely not do this. But at this time, if you don't leave, the whole group will be buried here. After all, compared to Garp, Roger was more afraid of the monkey family brother who drove Golden Lion crazy. Boom. Garp swung his fists violently, scattering all the ice dust in front of him. The terrifying fist mark directly penetrated the wind and snow, revealing a vacuum passage. You can't leave. Seeing Roger move away, Garp became furious and disappeared in a flash. To know, under this terrifying extreme climate, even Marine 6 styles would have a hard time performing. But Garp is extremely violent. Like a sharp knife, it tore through the storm and caught up with Roger in just a few seconds. Advertisement. Just as he said. Cheb, if Roger were allowed to escape, it would be really embarrassing for him as the elder brother of the monkey family. Therefore, I will definitely try my best to keep Roger. Hockey circled his fists, his whole body was like a cannonball, shattering the wind and snow in an instant, and came to Roger's side in an instant. Stop it! Garp roared and punched out with both fists. The unparalleled fist seal, carrying enough power to destroy mountains, penetrated the storm and fell down. Ha ha ha. I'm looking forward to our next meeting. Maybe I can treat you to a drink of wine on my ship. However, Roger didn't even look back, his laughter was quite lively. However, the long sword ace in his hand was held tightly and raised towards the front. Just when Garp's iron fist was about to fall, a burst of purple energy suddenly emerged, directly wrapping the long knife ace in Roger's hand, and violently dragged him over. That's the Bullet on the Jackson, currently using the fusion fruit ability. When Roger returned to the ship, Bullet released his fusion ability with a flick of his hands. Bang! Roger rolled several times on the deck before finally coming to a stop. Holding the long sword, he reluctantly stood up, staring sharply in the direction where his vision was blurry. Friends, get on the boat, let's get out of here. Oh, all the pirates cheered. On top of the mast, Shanks and Buggy had already climbed here, waiting for everyone to get on the ship before lowering the sails. Next moment, the sail fell from the mast. The endless wind surged, and the Jackson shot through the sky like an arrow in an instant. Faintly, accompanied by the screams and exclamations of countless pirates. This guy, Garp punched the air and looked at the direction where Roger disappeared with complicated eyes. I was speechless for a long time. To be honest, he already attaches great importance to Roger as his opponent. But it's a pity that we encountered this storm. Not only is it a disaster for the pirates, but it is also a disaster for Marine. If Kuzan and Kaur hadn't stepped in to stabilize the warships, I am afraid that Marine would have sunk to the bottom of the sea in such a violent storm. Advertisement. However, it is still difficult to maintain. When Garp returned to Marine, the arrest operation had now turned into an operation of self-preservation. 3 warships, frozen in the ice. However, it was too large in size and showed signs of shaking under the raging hurricane. If not, Kair's glutinous rice would have stuck to the bottom and would have been carried high into the sky by the storm. Mr. Garp. Seeing Garp return, Kuzan and Kaur turned their heads to look over. Admiral's cloak was torn, and he looked somewhat embarrassed. But the person was not seriously injured, but everyone knows that the Roger Pirates should have escaped. Especially for the two monsters Kuzan and Kaar, I have a more or less accurate understanding of the legendary pirate strength of this sea. The strength is as strong as their marine's admiral. No, there are exceptions, it's the direction of another battlefield. There were flashes of lightning and sword energy all over the wasteland. The two figures kept colliding and separating in the hurricane. The legendary marine hero holding a thundersword is using ultimate swordsmanship to push the Golden Lion into a desperate situation step by step. If it weren't for the ice and snow that obscured the view, it would have been very spectacular and wonderful. Everyone is ready to evacuate from here. Garp glanced at it, then withdrew his gaze and turned to give instructions to the marine generals. Hear the words. Everyone couldn't help but be stunned and immediately felt unbelievable. Mr. Garp, back to Chen Vice Admiral is still fighting. Is it really okay for us to leave now? The generals were puzzled. Even Kuzan and Kaar looked over, their eyes full of doubts. Although the Golden Lion's defeat was only a matter of time. However, if everyone evacuates like this, wouldn't it be too unreasonable? Garp grinned at everyone's doubts and confusion. Boys, it seems you don't know enough about Chen Vice Admiral. He crossed his arms, glanced at everyone, and his tone contained a sense of pride. The weather and fighting at this level can't do anything to him. After finishing speaking, Garp waved his hand and gave the order directly. The entire army evacuates the storm. Chapter 94. You like to persuade pirates to behave, please customize. Advertisement, Lion Majesty splitting sky slash. Accompanied by a roar from the Golden Lion. The two famous swords in his hands shot out two soaring sword energy, directly tearing the ice and snow, cutting through the ice layer, and in an instant he was in front of Chen. This slash was enough to cut off the sea, but, when he came close to Chen, the thunder sword he was holding was able to withstand the terrifying slashes of the Golden Lion. He didn't even step back even half a minute. The terrifying hurricane that was enough to blow away warships raised the cloak of justice, but it could not make Chen move even a little bit. Shiki, surrender, there are marines outside. Chen's eyes rose up, pierced through the misty wind and snow, and landed on the Golden Lion who was covered in scars and breathing heavily. To be honest, he also felt helpless. People in this world are always so paranoid and extreme. Chen used Golden Lion's best swordsmanship to force him into a desperate situation, just to make the big pirate surrender. Unexpectedly, Golden Lion is so stubborn. If you want to defeat the opponent with force and save your life, it is really difficult for Chen, just like controlling the strength without trampling on ants. Jia ha ha ha, Chen, it seems that you like to persuade pirates to be good. The Golden Lion held two swords, his arms trembling slightly. It was obvious that he was physically exhausted. However, due to his pride, he did not allow himself to escape or surrender. And the pirate he was referring to was Katakuri, but for that, Chen didn't care, but smiled. Persuading pirates to be good? That's a good thing to say. Of course, a heinous pirate like you has no right to be a good person. That's it. When your strength does not match your ambition, the so-called dream will be as despairing as the abyss, right? Chen spoke calmly. The lightning arc in his hand was bright and became more intense. The pale light illuminates the surrounding area as bright as day. Tisk, compared to the sins of us pirates, the people in power in the world are the real evils. Golden Lion sneered. Chen, you are not qualified to define Laozi's dream. Hear the words. Chen, who was just about to take action, paused his hand slightly, looked at Golden Lion, and his expression gradually became solemn. You and Rocks are very similar, but you're both going the wrong way. Advertisement, of course. I really don't want to define the dreams of you scum, because that will stain my justice. Pirates who have caused countless deaths, in my opinion, are not qualified to pursue their dreams. Chen raised his chin slightly, stared at the Golden Lion, and said with a bright smile, as for the world's powerful people you mentioned, they will eventually have their own destiny, but you probably can't see it. The previous words are about the division between good and evil. But those last words made Golden Lion's pupils shrink. Become a legendary marine hero, but to say such words was quite shocking to the pirate Golden Lion. Just like the Valley of the Gods incident, Rocks was so desperate and shocked. But soon, Golden Lion sneered and retorted, Marine, isn't he just a lackey of the world government? Who has the right to say these things? As a Marine, I didn't sell my soul. Chen smiled lightly and said, moreover, the difference between a Marine and a pirate lies in moral constraints, but it is also the difference between humans and animals. The seemingly innocuous words turned out to be a fierce counterattack. However, Golden Lion was not furious, but instead felt a little relieved. It seems that this is the only way to show the courage of the man in front of him. Jia ha ha ha, you are such a monster, no wonder even Rocks died in your hands. Golden Lion's feet slowly broke away from the ice, and his whole body was floating in the air. No matter how wind and snow swept in, he couldn't stop it for a moment. As Chen said before, a big pirate like him is very paranoid and extreme. If the strength really cannot match the ambition, the only outcome is to perish. It's no different than Rocks back then. The only difference is that Golden Lion didn't achieve the world-shaking deeds that Rocks did. But what does it matter? If there is a mountain blocking the way ahead, it is better to stay where you are to move forward bravely. For a big pirate like Golden Lion, there is only one choice. It's about moving forward courageously. I'm afraid, I'll pay the price with my life without hesitation. It seems you are ready to die. Chen smiled faintly, raised his eyes, stared at Golden Lion and said, so, do you have any last words? Last words? No, I do have regrets, but you probably won't help me finish them. Tell me the story. I just want to know what your future will be like. I think rocks in the past must also be very curious. Advertisement. I try my best. In response, Chen nodded, immediately gathered his thoughts, and fell into absolute concentration. If outsiders heard these conversations and didn't know about them, they would probably think that the two of them were old friends for many years. But for Chen and Golden Lion, powerful people who have reached their level will naturally not be angry or shout like ordinary people. Some of them will face challenges or death very calmly. Rumble. As the figure of the Golden Lion broke away from the ice, the frozen sea completely collapsed at this moment. Endless ice and snow flew, spinning in the air, and finally outlined a lion's head as huge as a mountain. 0. At the same time, the violently undulating sea and stormy waves became more violent. This world is completely run amok. If you look at it from the outside, you can clearly see that the seawater seems to be miraculously freed from the constraints of gravity, rising slowly. Ah, what is this? The 3 warships that had just escaped from the storm, and the countless marines on board, were all horrified. I saw the sea behind them rising, like a city wall, cutting off their direction. There, it seemed that gravity had been completely lost and it became quite chaotic. We're going to fight to the death. Garp stood at the bow of the ship, folded his arms, and said in a deep voice through gritted teeth. Although he is very confident about Chen's strength, Golden Lion is not a vegetarian. In his mind, he is even stronger than the old rocks. At least this lion fruit ability makes people feel a headache. Hiss. Chen Vice Admiral, is there any danger? It's so scary. Is this the strength of the legendary pirate? It would be too terrifying to change this world. Many generals were horrified. Kuzan's eyes were complicated and he clenched his fists. It would be great if he could freeze the sea. Unfortunately, it's still a little bit worse. As expected of a teacher, I have only practiced swordsmanship so far. Katakuri shouted excitedly. After hearing this sentence, everyone reacted. Vice Admiral, it seems, was only using the sword from beginning to end, and this alone was enough to force a legendary pirate into a desperate situation. Chapter 95. Shiki, be a good person in your next life, please customize. Advertisement. Is this guy going to throw that sea area into the storm? On the warship that had been evacuated far away, Garp stood on the bow of the ship, looking at the rising sea in the distance, his tone containing surprise and anger. This lion fruit ability is indeed too troublesome. From the beginning, it was conducive to the invincible position. Golden Lion can leave at any time if it wants to. But what Garp didn't expect was, Golden Lion's mentality has long been broken down by Chen's blows step by step. At this time, the Golden Lion is like a twilight lion, losing hope and survival becomes meaningless. This kind of shocking movement spreads to a sea area. This is the best proof. If you lose your mind, you must fight to the death. Ah. The frozen ice has collapsed. What should Chen Vice Admiral do? At this time, Kuzan behind him seemed to have thought of something and couldn't help but exclaimed. In his opinion, there is no place for Chen to stand in that world, unless he has the flying ability like Golden Lion. Otherwise, I'm afraid it will end up sinking into the sea. Not only Kuzan, but also other generals who were unfamiliar with Chen had this idea. However, for those who know Chen, they can't help but smile. Katakuri grinned, his tone was very proud, and explained with a slight smile. Don't underestimate Teacher Chen's ability. He is a man who is not afraid of the sea. Such small storms and waves pose no threat to Teacher Chen at all. Hear this. Everyone in the Marines on the warship had not had time to get a sense of order. The next moment, I saw the rising sea in the distance. The man standing above the stormy waves, holding a blazing pale thundersword, remained as motionless as a rock despite the raging storm. The blazing electric light was extremely bright and the sky and earth it reflected were as bright as day. It illuminates the scene in the storm, 097, and impacts everyone's vision and soul. Gulu. Is that Vice Admiral? It's so scary. Just the momentum of the release makes me have no intention of resisting. How did you do that? Standing in the stormy waves, confronting the Golden Lion with a sword. No, this is driving the Golden Lion into madness. It's so terrible. The legend of Marine is so terrifying. Each Marine's eyes were filled with horror, and the scene was like a huge wave crashing over them. It was too shocking, so strong, worthy of being a legend. Even Kuzan clenched his fists and his eyes turned into stars. That figure does not appear tall, but in their eyes, it is particularly majestic, like an unattainable sacred mountain. This is, in every Marine's mind, an immortal monument. As long as he is here, we can suppress all the dangers in the world. With him around, Marine is as stable as a rock. In terms of influence and prestige, it is no less than that of Marshal Marine. It is even more shocking because Chen refused to be promoted to Vice Admiral. Golden Lion was about to laugh, but his smile suddenly froze. He looked at the figure standing in the stormy waves, his mind was shocked, and then he remembered how the young man in front of him walked into the Valley of Gods from the storm. That is to say, Chen has unsinkable abilities. The rumors are indeed true. What kind of monster are you? Golden Lion roared with some annoyance. At this moment, he also fully understood what Captain Rox was feeling before he died. The rumored ability of Chen goes beyond that. How painful it must be when you want to accomplish something but can't. At this moment, Golden Lion finally realized something. Aha, the feeling of despair must be uncomfortable, right? Lu Chen raised his right hand slightly, holding the blazing thundersword tightly with his 5 fingers, as if he was holding a lightning bolt. I finally understand why all the pirates call you a devil, because your appearance will only bring despair to us pirates. Golden Lion grinned. The seemingly cool surface actually contains the pain of despair. Do you want to surrender? Lu Chen asked. Jia ha ha ha, die for Laozi? Lu Chen's answer was Golden Lion's desperate cry of anger. Lion Majesty sky-splitting slash. Laozi will kill you, God's punishment Lu Chen. Along with the Golden Lion's roar sounded. The 12 famous swords of Deadwood and Sakura are like roaring lions, driving the Golden Lion to swoop down from high in the sky. The violent hurricane was torn apart in an instant, due to the subtle sword energy that filled the sky. Invisible sword marks appeared one after another, like twisted space, instantly covering Lu Chen. It was so powerful that Golden Lion asked himself in this world that no one could take it unscathed. Not even if it's him. If you look at it from a distance, you can vaguely see a golden figure high in the sky, carrying unparalleled sword energy, falling straight towards the man who released the pale electric light. Even though they are far apart, people can feel the terror of this sword. So strong, even hurricanes can tear him apart. He is worthy of being the world's best swordsman in this era. The legendary pirate with unparalleled swordsmanship and one of the powerful fruit abilities is really terrifying. With this level of attack, is Lu Chen Vice Admiral really okay? It's so terrible. Countless marine generals looked at the scene in the distance and were extremely shocked. Advertisement: the previous battle between Garp and Roger was a pure collision of power. Then the current Lu Chen and Golden Lion are the ultimate kendo showdown. For swordsmen, this is undoubtedly a visual feast. Even Garp, who knew Lu Chen very well, suddenly became short of breath and felt a little worried for Lu Chen uncontrollably. It is really, the sword of Golden Lion is too terrifying. The hurricane that connected the sea and the sky was torn apart directly, and the sword energy from the 2 famous swords roared down like a lion king. Below, Lu Chen, standing in the huge waves, slowly raised his thunder sword. A blazing pale electric light bloomed in his palm, dazzling and gorgeous. Facing the Golden Lion's desperate and angry hateful blow, Lu Chen's expression was calmer than ever before. His eyes focused on the thunder sword in his hand, and his whole aura suddenly became sharp and terrifying. A huge sword intent erupted. Just like the peerless divine sword being unsheathed, it soared into the sky in an instant with the power to cut through the world. Dazzling golden light, blazing blue light, up and down, approaching at high speed. Finally collided together in midair, release a dazzling light like the sun. "Ah, my eyes!" The marine officers on the warship exclaimed one after another and couldn't help but close their eyes. The light is too dazzling. Even people like Garp and Kuzan couldn't help but narrow their eyes slightly. All I saw was the violent heaven and earth. Under the dazzling light, it was directly torn from top to bottom by an invisible sword light, and finally split into 2. Yes, the whole storm and rising seas were cut open. Next moment, boom! One the loud noise echoed around the world. The terrifying impact was released at this moment, erupting into a gorgeous scene like the explosion of the sun. The endless dark clouds were shattered, the rising sea was shattered, and the violent wind and waves were torn apart. The world has returned to peace. The sun shines down from the sky, illuminating the sky and the earth brightly. Is that Lu Chen Vice Admiral? Suddenly, Kuzan's eyes widened. He raised his hand and pointed at the falling figure from the sky, and couldn't help but scream. Upon hearing this, all the soldiers on the ship looked up. In the dazzling sunlight, a black spot was rapidly expanding, eventually forming a flying cloak and the outline of a human figure. No doubt, this is exactly what they expected from Lu Chen Vice Admiral. But the next moment, under the horrified eyes of countless people, behind the black silhouette of Lu Chen Vice Admiral, there was a tall black silhouette, seemingly chasing after him. Damn it, it's the Golden Lion. Quick, prepare the artillery. These pirates are too arrogant. They dare to pursue Lord Lu Chen. Pirates, don't be too arrogant. Many soldiers took action one after another, immediately preparing artillery and aiming in the direction of the falling shadow. Just less than 3 seconds, everyone could clearly hear the roaring sound of the wind as the figure fell down and rubbed against it. Then, the figure falls. Boom! With a loud noise, the bow of the warship where Garp was located suddenly sank, almost lifting the stern directly, and completely leaving the sea. However, many soldiers did not dare to relax. The cannons were aimed at each other, following the black shadow falling behind Lu Chen. But the next moment, they felt dumbfounded, because the black shadow behind Lu Chen did not fall on the warship, but fell towards the sea not far away. Thump! Water splashed. A black shadow sank to the bottom of the sea. Immediately afterwards, 2 long knives and a pair of long legs stained with blood fell into the sea one after another. This bloody and terrifying scene immediately turned the Marines on the 3 warships to stone. Not long after, the blue sea surface was dyed red with blood. Snapped, the electric arc burst out, flashing bright sparks, lighting a cigarette. Lu Chen blew out a smoke ring heavily. His eyes fell in the direction where the Golden Lion fell, and he said lightly, "Shiki, be a good person in your next life." The words fell. The pupils of the petrified Marine soldiers shrank suddenly, and they all took a deep breath. "Do you died? A legendary pirate ended like this?" To know. Compared to the Roger and Whitebeard Pirates, Golden Lion's flying pirates in this era can be said to be the most famous and prestigious pirate group. Otherwise, Golden Lion would not have grown so big that it wanted to join forces with Roger to conquer the world. Because among the 3 legendary pirates, Golden Lion's flying pirates are more in line with people's understanding of pirates. Just like rocks back then, it was constantly annexing and expanding like a never-ending greedy beast. Advertisement. But now, this greedy behemoth was completely destroyed by an extreme storm and Marine's pursuit. Even the Captain Golden Lion sank to the bottom of the sea. When people are shocked beyond measure, Lu Chen's faint voice interrupted the stunned Marines. Why are you standing there in a daze? If you haven't fished him out yet, he will really be dead if you wait any longer. Hear the words. Everyone, not dead. Then why do you want to be a good person in your next life? The down-and-out pirate whose legs were cut off will spend his next life in prison. Lu Chen explained angrily. After hearing this, everyone woke up, and immediately Marine, who was not an esper, jumped into the sea. Less than half a minute, he fished out the Golden Lion with its legs cut off. Although he is not dead yet, he is almost there. The originally burly man's face was bloodless now, his eyes were tightly closed, and his face was full of loneliness and despair. Why don't you kill me? He slowly opened his eyes, looking desperately at Lu Chen standing at the bow of the ship and asked. I just said that I will do my best, Lu Chen said without looking back. Ah. Hearing this, Golden Lion closed his eyes and passed out completely. Try your best to defeat him without dying. For this big pirate, life is really ironic, so coma is the best thing to face. Next, the seastone shackles were locked, and the wounds on his legs were bandaged to prevent the great pirate from bleeding to death, and then he was thrown directly into the temporary prison in the cabin. The other members of the flying pirates were imprisoned on the remaining 2 warships. Hey, B********** D brother, how much ability are you still hiding from me? After imprisoning Golden Lion, Garp took a few steps forward and punched Lu Chen on the shoulder with a very dissatisfied tone. It's just the way of the sword, Lu Chen smiled lightly. That's all? When Kuzan and Katakuri heard this, they were stunned. You know, the swordsmanship that Lu Chen performed just now is as good as anyone else. It is not an exaggeration to say that he is the best in the world. Before this, no one knew that Lu Chen knew swordsmanship. When did you learn it? Garp also asked curiously. When I'm stationed at the branch, I just practice when I have nothing to do, that's all. Lu Chen answered calmly. In fact, after he won the world's best swordsmanship throne, he really didn't have much chance to use it. He would often wave a few times when he seemed fine, to confirm that he still had the ability to do the sword. But for Kuzan and Katakuri behind them, they were shocked again. That's it? The 2 of them looked at Lu Chen's back with burning eyes. In the minds of these 2 new generation monsters, this man from behind is worth their whole lives to chase. Roger's group ran away. At this point, Lu Chen seemed to remember something and glanced sideways at Garp beside him. Yi Garp couldn't stand that look. HMPH, if it weren't for this damn weather, I definitely wouldn't have let this guy Luo 0.3G run away. After finishing speaking, Garp turned around with a curse and returned to the cabin naturally, so as not to suffer the contempt in his brother's eyes. Seeing this, Kuzan and Katakuri followed Garp dejectedly. Mr. Lu Chen, the captured pirates need to be dealt with. Aha, teacher, I'll help with it too. The 2 men fled immediately. After all, neither they nor Garp left the Roger pirates behind, and they felt too embarrassed in front of Lu Chen. What a lucky man. Lu Chen didn't pay attention to this, and smiled to himself with a slight smile on his lips. Have to say, in the original Battle of Wall, the Roger pirates were saved by the extreme climate. Now, that seems to be the case too. This made Lu Chen have to wonder, is there such a kind of cause and effect in this world? No matter what fate and cause, they can't stop me. I thought so in my heart. Next moment, in my mind, a system prompt sounded suddenly. Ding, congratulations to host, you got 1.5 million justice points. Ding, congratulations to host, you have reached 5 million justice points. Do you want to enable justice sign in? There was a system prompt that had not appeared for a long time, and now it appeared again. Since the end of the Valley of Gods, you need to accumulate 5 million points to open the sign in. After many years in the disintegration of the Sky Pirates just now, it is finally enough. I don't know what I can gain from signing in this time. Lu Chen felt a vague expectation in his heart. Then, he ordered the system to sign in from the bottom of his heart. Ding, congratulations to host, the successful sign in of justice. Chapter 96. Time and Space Flying Thunder God Technique, please customize. Advertisement, ding. Congratulations to host, you got Time and Space Ninjutsu Flying Thunder God Technique. The system prompt sounds. A vast amount of information suddenly poured into Lu Chen's mind. The body also has a special kind of muscle memory. As long as he wants to, he can instantly release the Flying Thunder God's mark, which can be instantly linked to the Flying Thunder God's mark, allowing him to move instantaneously. It's really an unexpected surprise. After digesting the information in his mind, Lu Chen had a look of surprise on his face. Note. Flying Thunder God Technique, an S-level time and space ninjutsu developed by Konoha's second Hokage Senju Tobarama in the Hokage world, belongs to the teleportation type and uses the technique to achieve the effect of instant movement. As long as the caster leaves the mark of the Flying Thunder God spell on the target, the caster and the target can move instantly. As long as the caster has sufficient physical strength, he can move huge targets multiple times, and living creatures. Overall, it's a hotel that's great for on-the-go capabilities. No, in addition to traveling, there is also delivering certain items to a certain place. Lu Chen raised his eyebrows. This is a technique similar to space jumping. Moreover, it can also carry living people and objects for movement. 27 As for how many living people and items it can carry, it all depends on Lu Chen's physical strength. After all, after the improvement of the system, performing the Flying Thunder God technique requires stamina. Theoretically, if you have unlimited physical strength, you can reach even the end of the universe by casting the Flying Thunder God mark. Then I wonder how far I can reach the limit with my power. With this thought in his mind, Lu Chen casually released a mark on the warship. Then, wait until the warship leaves this sea area and heads straight towards the Hongxi continent. Lu Chen found Garp and explained that he wanted to disappear for a few days. Then do you want me to delay my return to the headquarters? Garp asked with a frown. That's not necessary, just sail according to plan, I will be back before you arrive at the headquarters. Is that so? That's no problem, okay, then I'm leaving. After finishing speaking, Lu Chen jumped directly from the warship and landed smoothly on the sea. This action startled Garp. He reacted immediately, widened his eyes and asked, don't you use a warship? How will you come back then? I have a solution. In response, Lu Chen stood on the sea and waved. Advertisement as the most powerful top being in this sea, Garp naturally wouldn't worry about what danger this guy would be in. I'm just very curious about what Lu Chen said, not long after. After watching the 3 warships disappear from sight, Lu stepped away. At the same time, he was also silently sensing the distance of the Flying Thunder God's mark in his heart. Half a day later, Lu Chen landed on a desert island, then sat down cross-legged, quietly sensing the Flying Thunder God's mark. It seems my limit is very far. At this time, he still clearly sensed that this distance was far from his limit. Ever since, Lu Chen stayed on this deserted island for 7 or 8 days. As for the sensed Flying Thunder God mark, although the distance became blurred and should be very far away, he could still confirm that it was not at the limit. Why do I feel that even traveling around the world is not my limit? Lu Chen had this illusion in his mind, although, it's really possible. But if you haven't tried it, you can't be sure whether it is true or false. Only, according to the navigation world of warships, we will arrive at Marineford in 1 day. In other words, Lu Kong can confirm it. Even in the remote desert island coordinates of the New World, he has enough physical strength to return to naval headquarters in a short time. With Flying Thunder God technique, it is so convenient. Lu Chen was inexplicably surprised. I have to say that this reward for signing in for justice is such a surprise. To know, if you rely on warships to navigate this sea, the distance between ordinary islands will take at least 1 day and 1 night. And with the Flying Thunder God technique, as long as you release the Flying Thunder God mark, you can run around the world without wasting time. When I go to the West Blue in the future, I have to leave a mark in Ohara. Well, there's also the East Blue. Anyway, I have to leave a mark in the far distance. With a rough plan in mind, Lu Chen's attention also fell on the personal attribute panel. Host. Lu Chen Fruit. Thunder Fruit, Awakening 89%. Advertisement Huggy. 3 colors perfect physical skills. Marine 6 styles, 93%. Gentle Fist, 78. 8 inner gates, 88%. Kendo. The throne of the world's best Kendo ninjutsu, Flying Thunder God technique. Template. Senju Hashirama, Justice. 320,000 points. Distance to next check-in, 3.8 million. After taking a look at the properties, Lu Chen was still very satisfied. There is an additional ninjutsu, and the complete options have been simplified. So it seems clear at a glance, after years of accumulation, Lu Chen had almost reached 5 million justice points. This time, the harvest was 1.5 million, signing in cost 5 million. That is, there are probably more than 300,000 left. The next sign-in points will cost 3.8 million. I don't know what my next check-in will be, I hope it's a character template. Lu Chen murmured in his heart. After all, obtaining a character template is equivalent to obtaining multiple abilities. If you only gain abilities, like this time, you only need 5 million points to gain an S-level time and space ninjutsu. If Lu Chen hadn't felt that Flying Thunder God technique was very suitable for him, he would have felt that this system was too confusing. Even though Flying Thunder God technique is good, it's still too crappy. These days after the naval battle of 8 Wall, word began to trickle out. In particular, the World Economic Daily, where Morgan's works, immediately received this bombshell detailed information. Pirate Nightmare. God's Punishment Vice Admiral joins forces with Garp Admiral to attack the Roger Pirates and the Sky Pirates. Big news. The Sky Pirates were defeated by Marine, and the whereabouts of Captain Golden Lion is unknown. It is said that he has become Marine's prisoner. Good or evil? Charlotte Katakuri, the son of a pirate in Marine. Exaggerated ultimate titles, accompanied by frantically printed newspapers, flew around the world. At this time, none of the 3 warships carrying out military missions had returned to Marineford. But the news was like a devastating storm, sweeping across the world in an instant. Countless people were shocked by this. A piece of news and content with an exaggerated title is like a meteorite from the sky, which makes everyone stunned. Chapter 97. Auntie, my most perfect masterpiece became a Marine? Please customize. Advertisement New World. A huge beluga pirate ship was traveling at high speed and the atmosphere on the ship was a bit dull at the moment. Golden Lion was arrested again. Marco, a young pineapple-headed man, held the newspaper with a look of shock and disbelief on his face. The news comes exactly from World Economic Daily. When Golden Lion wanted to invite Roger, the whole world knew about it. Unexpectedly, only a few days have passed. Golden Lion and his entire flying pirate group just disappeared in the sea. This news was so shocking that Dahai couldn't react for a long time. Is it true? Golden Lion Shiki was arrested like this? Marco still couldn't believe it. Not to mention him, everyone on the ship was in disbelief. You know, Golden Lion is a man with the ability of lion fruit. If he wants to leave, no one in this world should be able to keep him. Aha, it's this marine named Chen again. At this time, Odin, who was sitting next to Whitebeard and was wearing a warrior costume, exclaimed. Everyone turned to look over. I remember something. Before I came out of Wano Kuni, I saw this Chen's deeds. Sensing everyone's doubtful glances, Kazuki Odin said in a deep voice, but in the past few years since I went to sea, he seemed to have fallen silent. I didn't expect that when I heard his name again, it would cause the sea to shake. This samurai from Wano Kuni seemed quite emotional at the moment. I see. The squad members nodded. For pirates, as long as the name Chen appears in the public eye, it will be accompanied by an earthquake-like event. This time, it's the Sky Pirates. Next time, I won't know who it is. As a pirate, everyone felt like Alexander. In particular, the old members who followed Whitebeard and came from the Rocks era looked solemn to ultimate. Haha, God's punishment Chen, I really look forward to meeting him in the future. Odin held the two swords at his waist tightly and laughed rebelliously. As soon as this statement came out, young people like Marco were suddenly frightened and their expressions changed drastically. Whitebeard, who had been silent all this time, also spoke at this time. The burly giant sitting on the throne on the deck of the White Whale pirate ship put down the wine barrel at this moment, his expression full of fear. Gula Lala, Odin, you should pray not to meet him, it will be a nightmare in your life. To know. When he was in the Valley of the Gods, if Rocks hadn't sent Whitebeard away from the battlefield before he died, he wasn't sure he would have survived until now. When many division captains heard Whitebeard's words, their expressions became more solemn. Once upon a time, Dad would never make ambitions to improve others and destroy his own prestige. But now, haha, I'm just looking forward to it, but I'm not stupid enough to look for him. Advertisement Odin laughed. While speaking, he glanced at the beautiful figure holding a baby standing at the door of the cabin. Hey, if we really meet, I won't back down for the sake of my family. From the bottom of my heart, I added silently. The Whitebeard Pirates, apart from being slightly shocked, didn't have much feeling about Golden Lion being captured. This naval battle is worthy of being recorded. As for pirates, in addition to the Sky Pirates, there is also the Roger Pirates. Being able to escape with the cooperation of Vice Admiral and Garp Admiral shocked many pirates. The waters of all nations, Dandu, rumble, the buildings in the town collapsed and dust rose into the sky. Charlotte Linlin, who was like a steel balloon, was in a rage, her eyes were blood red and spitting fire, she clenched her fists and destroyed all the people and buildings she saw. Damn it, my most outstanding work actually became marine. Monkey D. Chen, I will never let you go, I'm going to naval headquarters. While roaring, Charlotte Linlin was like a walking bulldozer, directly destroying a road in the town and walking straight towards the distant coast. This scene shocked everyone. Even members of the Charlotte family dare not express their anger at this moment. They had never seen their mother angry and furious, it was really terrifying. The good thing is, a burst of rapid footsteps suddenly came from the direction of the kitchen. Charlotte's members were suddenly shocked and turned their heads to look over. I saw the rather short-bread chef rushing out and caught up with the furious Charlotte Linlin in an instant. Linlin, stop, don't be impulsive. Long Bread pulled out the long sword from his waist and pointed it directly at the falling fist. Boom! The huge force directly blasted the loaf of bread away, crashing through a mountain before stopping. But the next moment, the baguette rushed out again and slashed out with his long sword, causing Auntie's clumsy figure to fall down. Have you forgotten what happened to Captain Rocks? Long Bread stood on the top of the building, looking down at Auntie, and shouted in a deep voice. As soon as these words came out, the aunt's original irrational anger was extinguished for the most part, and her eyesight gradually returned to clarity. But that is my most perfect masterpiece. Before Auntie could finish speaking, Longbread waved his little hand and interrupted, laughing. Even if he becomes Marine, he is still Linlin's son. What does this mean? He may be able to help you achieve hegemony in the future. Hear the words. Auntie finally regained her senses and fell into deep thought. At this time, other children from the Charlotte family also came over. Brother Katakuri has loved us since we were children. Even if we meet in the future, I believe he will not take action against us. Big Brother has now become a marine genius, and may become a marine admiral in the future. Even if he helps us secretly, it will be of great help to my mother. Advertisement, Mom, please believe in Brother Katakuri. Mom, please believe in Brother Katakuri. Many children of the Charlotte family spoke one after another. Humph, I haven't contacted us for so many years. I don't think he still misses the old relationship. Auntie is not stupid either, thinking that Katakuri has been away for many years without contacting Wangguo. He doesn't dare to have any thoughts when he is with the Vice Admiral of Heavenly Punishment. But Longbread's words dispelled the aunt's doubts. Although I was still unhappy when I thought it was Chen, my anger turned into helplessness. The first half of the Grand Line, a kingdom that has just ended a war. The dragon wearing a dark green cloak walked out of the ruins, holding a newspaper in his hand, and his tattooed cheeks were filled with excitement. The best swordsman in the world. Uncle, he really has countless surprises. It seems we can't lag too far behind, Long whispered to himself. Behind it is a burned-down palace. After years of practice, he finally overthrew a decadent kingdom. And this is just the beginning of his revolutionary road. In the future, there will be more decadent countries that will become stepping stones on his revolutionary road. Ivankov, let's go and prepare for the next target. Long raised his hand slightly, and a hurricane appeared in his palm, tearing up the newspaper in his hand, then turned around and shouted towards the depths of the ruins. Not long after, there were a few figures coming from a distance. The naval battle of 8 Wall shocked the whole world. During this, good Wang Zhao time, everyone is discussing it. As for Lu Chen, the party concerned, he estimated that the warship should return to the headquarters soon, and he wanted to use the Flying Thunder God technique to leave. But just then, Lu Chen raised his eyebrows and immediately turned his head to look towards the coast. On the coast of the desert island, a pirate ship suddenly appeared. Dozens of pirates looked frightened and were driven ashore by a young man with combed back hair and a coat. It really makes me feel insulted to be a pirate with you. The words fell. The young man behind his back waved his hand, and the grass on the coast immediately withered and turned into a dry desert. A huge desert sickle shot out from it and swept directly across the dozens of pirates. Boom! With just one blow, more than 10 people were knocked away. Boy, don't be too arrogant. You want a pirate ship and we've given it to you. What else do you want? I saw the leader of dozens of pirates, holding a long knife and roaring at the young man behind him. Hear this. The young man with his slicked back hair smiled. His smile was very cold. Chapter 98. What a terrifying young man. Ask for automatic. Advertisement. He has a slicked back hair and an arrogant look on his face. He is wearing a black fur coat. He looks about 20 years old and holds a golden cane in his left hand. Such a young man has the New World Pirate Group at his fingertips. Isn't this a crocodile? Lu Chen, who was about to use the Flying Thunder God technique to leave, had a trace of surprise on his face. Never imagined. You can encounter the Shichibukai sand crocodile in the original work on this desert island. Logia fruit, sand fruit ability user, boom. Toward the coast, sand and dust were flying, blocking the view. Although Lu Chen couldn't see it, he could sense what was happening inside. Crocodile fought the entire pirate group by himself and defeated everyone in less than half a minute. Stupid guys like you don't deserve to be called pirates. When the dust cleared, Crocodile was seen grabbing the pirate leader with one hand and picking him up like a chicken. Next moment, the pirate leader in his hand, his flesh and blood continued to wither and eventually turned into a mummy, falling to the ground with a snap, splashing dust all over the ground. Guhahaha, a person who can't even protect his dreams, what qualifications does Tian Hai have? Looking at the fallen pirate on the ground, Crocodile made an arrogant taunt. Then, without looking back, he walked straight towards the pirate ship docked on the coast. But just then, deep in the island, an exclamation came slowly. What a terrifying future life, the words fell. Crocodile suddenly stiffened, then turned around and looked sharply at the source of the sound. 090 I saw a young man wearing marine clothing and a flying cloak of justice walking out of the jungle slowly. Marine? I'm so unlucky to meet you, Vice Admiral? When he saw Lu Chen, the smile on Crocodile's face gradually turned cold. He was about to say something arrogantly, but after seeing Lu Chen's appearance clearly, he blurted out and screamed. The voice has increased several times. His face also became ugly, and there were bursts of panic and despair in his eyes. The shadow of a famous tree. A few days ago, Lu Chen's reputation resounded across the sea again. He didn't expect it to appear before his eyes. If he had known it earlier, Crocodile asked himself, he would never have come to this desert island to show off. What to do? No, if I'm afraid of the marine in front of me, then what courage do I have to challenge Whitebeard? His body was shaking uncontrollably and gradually returned to calm. And this time, Lu Chen has already arrived in front of him. Holding a cigarette in his mouth, he looked at Crocodile again with the slightest interest. That look was like looking at something interesting. He didn't even make a move, but just standing here almost frightened the little guy with his slick back hair in front of him. What do you want? Crocodile suppressed the fear in his heart and asked in a deep voice through gritted teeth. Are you a pirate? Advertisement Lu Chen asked in a calm tone without answering. Pirate? Crocodile looked stunned for a moment, but then he came to his senses. During this period, he had just gone to sea not long ago and had not had time to form a pirate group. He was just wandering alone. So what if it is? So what if it's not? Crocodile asked. What answered him was a coercion as vast as the sea released from Lu Chen, which instantly enveloped Crocodile and caused Crocodile to tremble and almost fall to his knees. The good thing is, Conqueror's Haki disappears as quickly as it comes. In just a moment, it disappeared like a tide. Crocodile's figure swayed and he almost lost his balance. His expression was frightened and filled with lingering despair. If so, I can reincarnate you right now. Lu Chen spoke calmly. His tone was heard by Crocodile, and it contained the meaning of cold killing. But immediately after, Lu Chen softened his tone and slowly raised his right hand in an inviting gesture. If not, are you interested in joining Marine and becoming a Marine warrior who protects justice? What? Crocodile suddenly raised his head and looked at Lu Chen in fear. When he realized that Lu Chen was not joking, his mentality was about to collapse. What a joke, he went to sea just to be a pirate. But now, how could he be personally invited to join Marine by the legendary Marine hero? Am I really dreaming? Have to say, Lu Chen's jumping thinking almost made Crocodile unable to keep up, and he was completely confused. For a moment, I didn't react at all, but at this moment, Lu Chen walked up to Crocodile, raised his hand and put his shoulder, smiling. Of course, as Marine, I would never force you, really? Yes, I can give you two choices. What choice? Follow me and become a Marine, or come and become a pirate in the future. Crocodile's expression changed. How should he answer? But it didn't give him more time to think. Suddenly, there was a slight vibration in the space. Crocodile only felt that his body became illusory in an instant. Immediately afterwards, the picture in his sight suddenly became blurry. Buzz. But just for a moment, the illusory body gradually regained the feeling of flesh and blood. Advertisement. The picture in sight has also become quite unfamiliar. Except for Lu Chen beside him, it was as if in an instant, I came to another world. This is where? Crocodile was confused. Looking down, I found myself standing on the deck, looking around, as if I was on a ship. There were Marine soldiers all around. In the direction of the bow, some Marine generals stood with their cloaks flying. There is even a Marine admiral. Crocodile's expression gradually became frightened. His gaze passed over the Marine general standing on the bow of the ship, across the port where dozens of warships were docked, and focused on a magnificent wall. The wall with the huge word justice written on it. Naval headquarters. In an instant, this high-spirited newcomer on the sea immediately broke his guard and couldn't help but scream. At the same time, hearing the exclamations from behind, Garp and others standing at the bow of the ship turned their heads to look over. Everyone was dumbfounded when they saw Lu Chen and the young man with his back beside Lu Chen. Ha ha ha, Xiaoxia, two choices, have you thought about it? Lu Chen patted Crocodile on the shoulder, then walked over to meet the shocked eyes of Garp and others, and said with a smile. On the way back, first recruited a Marine with good qualifications. As he spoke, he pursed his lips at the petrified crocodile behind him and said, Lobia sand fruit, you will have a lot of potential in the future. Quiet. Dead silence. Both Garp, Kuzan and Katakuri were all dumbfounded and could no longer listen to what Lu Chen said. It took quite a while before Garp came to his senses and asked in a rich tone. Where did you come from? You be ********D. You know, based on Garp's observation hockey, it is understandable that Lu Chen was not discovered. However, it would be unreasonable to not even discover Crocodile. Therefore, we can only think that Lu Chen has some ability to block observation hockey. Ah, I just came from New World. In this regard, Lu Chen explained calmly. However, Garp and others understood it as coming from the New World. But in the process of coming, the understanding between the two parties was thousands of miles apart. In the field, no one except the petrified crocodile knew what happened just now. That was, from the distant New World, moving in an instant. It is an ability that subverts the perception of the world. A man with such ability, as a Marine, he will definitely become a pirate's nightmare. Therefore, Crocodile already has a choice in mind. Moreover, being in naval headquarters, does he have any other choice? Chapter 99. Soon, please customize. Advertisement. And just when Lu Chen returned to naval headquarters, 3 warships entered the port and immediately attracted everyone's attention. After all, this time, it can be said that Guy is back. The entire marine port was bustling with activity. Everyone was shocked when they saw the prison cells lifted off the warship and the pirates imprisoned inside. In particular, the appearance of the Golden Lion with its legs amputated caused waves of orgasms at the scene. Hiss, the news is indeed true. Vice Admiral really caught the Golden Lion. It is said that Vice Admiral defeated the Golden Lion with unparalleled swordsmanship. It has long been rumored by the outside world that the man in front of me is the only one qualified to be the world's #1 swordsman in this era. The best swordsman in the world, Marine Vice Admiral, becoming the world's best swordsman will definitely improve our ability. Hey, it's said that everyone has been alerted to the Holy Land. The Marine soldiers gathered at the dock looked over from a distance and started talking about it. Everyone's face was filled with excitement. And this time, Marshal Kong, Sengoku Admiral, staff officer he and others all came out of the headquarters building to greet him. It is really, before he came back, the news had spread like wildfire. Haha, Garp, Lu Chen, let's go back first and talk. Marshal Kong came closer and said with a smile on his face. Knew it, he was not disappointed and the task was still completed perfectly. Originally it was just to stop the alliance between Roger and Golden Lion, but unexpectedly, it also disintegrated the Sky Pirates and directly captured the captain of the pirates, Golden Lion. Car, take that guy with the back to get familiar with him. After hearing Marshal Kong's words, Lu Chen gave instructions to Katakuri behind him, and then followed the Marshal back side by side with Garp. In situ, leaving behind countless admiring glances. After a while, Katakuri reacted first. He raised his chin, looked down at Crocodile, tilted his head and said, Boy, come with me. Hear this. Crocodile wakes up from his shock. However, seeing Katakuri's arrogant attitude, he also raised his neck and regained his wild expression. Are you talking to me? Katakuri was slightly startled. It seems that I didn't expect that this new guy seems to be a bit crazy. Ever since, he laughed. Clay pot-sized fists, your joints crackle. Boy, you have the potential to be a punching bag. Although I don't know who you are, you talk to me in this tone. Have you ever felt death? When it comes to showing off, Crocodile thinks he is no weaker than others, and his tone is even more contemptuous. The heated conversation between the two was clearly felt by the Marine soldiers around them. Next moment, advertisement the port docks shook and dust rose into the sky. Chen and others who had already walked far away paused slightly. Haha, the kid needs a lesson before he becomes obedient. He smiled lightly. After hearing this, these marine executives naturally had no objection. Chen brought him back anyway. Ever since, ignoring the movement at the dock, the group returned to the naval headquarters building. At this time, several men in black suits came over quickly. Your Excellency Chen, we come from the Holy Land and obey the will of the world government. We hope that you can serve as Marine Admiral. Before the Holy Land messenger could finish speaking, Chen waved his hand and said resolutely, I refuse. The words fell. He walked directly past Marshal Kong and others and entered the conference room. This scene, for other Marine generals, was no less than a huge boulder falling into a calm lake, causing a huge sensation. Rejected again? He is indeed a legend of naval headquarters? To this, Marshal Kong and Sengoku are already familiar with these old acquaintances. After sitting down in the conference room, Sora asked straight to the point. The time for garrison rotation is coming soon. If you don't serve as admiral, you have to find a branch to garrison. Marine Admiral, stationed in the Holy Land, and every admiral takes turns. Marine Vice Admiral is the Marine branch stationed at the Marine Corps. The more powerful the Vice Admiral is, the more important the branch is. For example, back then, the G2 branch where Chen was stationed guarded the entrance to the Valley of the Gods, and was no less important than Marineford. Oh, is there any place where I need to be stationed? Chen asked nonchalantly. Well, Marshal Kong sighed. With your current strength, if you don't get promoted to Admiral, I really can't think of any place where you would need to guard it personally. Staff he next to him shook his head and said with a smile. Every time it is mentioned, it gives the entire Marine and even the world government a headache. Otherwise, an ordinary Vice Admiral would not be able to take such a long vacation. Ha ha ha. Garp next to him laughed when he saw this. Sengoku also had a headache. This is the most troublesome thing in Marine right now. If you're not in a hurry, you can wait a little longer. Maybe there will be a place where I need to be stationed. Chen said meaningfully, it would be great if there was. Marshal Kong gave up thinking, shook his head and smiled bitterly. Sooner or later it will happen. Chen smiled slightly, but his tone was extremely serious. Advertisement people who know him are curious, but he didn't say it, and no one continued to investigate further. Anyway, based on everyone's familiarity with Marine, they basically believed that this might not happen. The military merits have been recorded. Let's adjourn the meeting. Marshal Kong walked out of the conference room first, and he also went to the Holy Land to report. Looking at Kong's back, Chen's eyes became quite deep. Soon, that place is very suitable for Marine to establish a base. I don't know how much of a sensation it will cause at that time. Please give me flowers, West Blue, O'Hara. A European-style cabin. When seagulls pass by, newspapers drop like snowflakes. World Economic Daily, after several days, finally arrived at the distant sea. Squeak. The cabin door opened. Albia walked out in a loose nightgown and picked up the newspaper on the ground with a slightly clumsy movement. After taking a few glances, a touch of gentleness appeared on her warm cheeks. He is really bad news for pirates. I don't know how he would feel if he knew that I had violated the law. Little Robin, your father is a man who stands upright and upright. It seemed as if he was talking to himself, but also as if he was talking to himself. Albia straightened her waist, and her original youthful temperament was filled with gentle motherly love. Even loose pajamas could not hide her bulging belly. As soon as she finished speaking, her expression changed slightly, and her eyebrows frowned. You're so good, I'm starting to know how to interact with my mother. Feeling the movement of the little life in her abdomen, Albia quickly turned around and returned to the wooden house, not daring to move too much. Da da da, but at this moment, the sound of rapid footsteps suddenly came from the country road in the distance. Albia turned around and looked. Dr. Clover was seen walking towards him with his hands raised in the air, holding an archaeological document, and his expression could not hide his happiness. Ha ha ha, Albia, we finally got a clue from the ancient book we deciphered last time we went out to sea. Arriving at the yard of the cabin, Dr. Clover handed over the deciphered text. This is a huge kingdom in the Far East. After reading it, the words Albia remembered the most were the words, huge kingdom, and he couldn't help but blurt it out. Yes, our archaeological progress has finally made a breakthrough. Dr. Clover danced excitedly, like a child getting candy. But he quickly calmed down, looked down at Albia's big belly, and said in a deep voice, how long? Soon. Albia lowered her head and gently caressed her belly with both hands. Feeling the warmth and the beating of life from her palms, her whole body exuded the brilliance of motherhood. We have made breakthroughs in archaeological progress recently. I have a hunch that the world government will notice it. Dr. Clover's expression became solemn and he said, have you thought about a showdown with that man? You know, the existence of archaeologists like us goes against the will of the world government. Albia was stunned for a moment, then his expression faded and he smiled bitterly. No, I will never see him again, not in this life. Chapter 100. Technology is the primary productive force, please customize. Advertisement a few days later. Marshal Kong, who returned from the Holy Land, secretly summoned Chen to arrive with a solemn expression. Vegapunk. When he saw the information brought back by Marshal Kong, Chen raised his eyebrows and looked a little moved. You know, it's in the original work. This Vegapunk is a scientist, and his influence is everywhere in the world's technology. And it is rumored that his technology is 500 years ahead of the world. The thing that alarmed the world government was because Vegapunk researched the life design and discovered the most mysterious blood factor in living things. There are many rumors about the blood factor, but unraveling the conditions for the transmission of devil fruit's abilities is obviously what the world government values. Chen didn't expect it either. This mission will actually fall on me. He was very interested in this. As a successor to socialism, he knows very well that technology is the primary productive force. He has the ability of Thunderfruit, but lacks the technology products driven by electricity. Yes, I need you to take action. Marshal Kong looked solemn and said in a serious voice. Go to the Machine Island as soon as possible and secretly arrest Vegapunk and his team. This is what the Holy Land world government means. Finally, Kong added one sentence. Mr. Kong, I'm happy to accept it. Chen said with a smile on his face, and I am somewhat interested in technology. If possible, I would be happy to communicate with such scientists. Hear the words. Marshal Kong breathed a sigh of relief. In fact, after much thought, it seemed that only Chen was the most suitable for this task. The reason why the world government wants to arrest in secret is to use Vegapunk for its own use. If you are interested, I can set up the science and technology department under your command in the future. Haha, don't worry, Mr. Kong, I will definitely complete my role as a doctor perfectly. After receiving Marshal Kong's promise, Chen left the conference room in a good mood. Then, he left Marineford with Katakuri and Crocodile. Before leaving, he was entrusted by Crane Vice Admiral. I have a sister coming from afar. If you drop by Sabo the Archipelago, help me pick her up. Crane Vice Admiral said with a slight smile, younger sister? Hearing this, Chen became curious. He had never heard that he had brothers and sisters. But after hearing Vice Admiral Crane's explanation, he suddenly realized. Although she is not related by blood, she is my sister because she comes from my hometown. Are you so comfortable letting your sister sail alone? Chen asked with a surprised look on his face. Don't underestimate a woman, she is very strong. Interesting. So where is she at Sabo the Archipelago? Amusement park. What about the characteristics? As long as you show up, she will take the initiative to find you. Crane Vice Admiral's eyes were meaningful, and he smiled and said, I forgot to mention, you are her idol. Idol? Advertisement. It sounds like Ziping is a good fit for being a Marine? After all, who would think of a legendary Marine hero as their idol? That's all. After being entrusted by Vice Admiral Chen set off straight away. On the way to Sabo the Archipelago after leaving naval headquarters, Chen took out Albia's life card, looked at the signs of burning on the edge, and couldn't help but frown. Are you sick? The life card will burn and shrink only if the host's body has health problems. Fortunately, although Albia's life card burned smaller, compared with the original, it only burned a circle around the edge. That's why Chen guessed that Albia might be sick. Of course. Except for the reason of illness. Chen also has a bold idea. However, even he himself did not dare to think about it because it was too unbelievable. Let's go to West Blue again. After a while, slowly exhaling a breath, Chen carefully put away the life card. This Marine hero who decisively killed pirates also showed his emotional side at this time. Katakuri and Crocodile, who were standing respectfully behind him, noticed the subtle changes in Chen and couldn't help but feel shocked. Both were curious. Who is the owner of that life card? It actually makes this legendary Marine hero show a trace of worry. And just then, warships also came to the Sabo the Archipelago. It's still the same old rules. Thunder rang during the day, and countless dark forces entrenched on the island began to feel the despair of the end. Whether it's a new pirate or a lackey of the celestial dragons. Without exception, they were all reduced to ashes and smoke under the thunder. This crude and simple scene shocked the new Crocodile. You be ********************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************* I will definitely take revenge in my next life. Ruined. Why does this old monster appear here so often? Woohoo, my sailing career is coming to an end. Feeling the majesty of the coming thunder, almost no fish slipped through the net, and all the evil forces of darkness were punished in Sabaody Archipelago. Groups of neatly arranged marine soldiers set off according to the coordinates pointed by Lu Chen. It is indeed a pirate's nightmare. Crocodile swallowed hard and stared at Lu Chen lying on the beach chair with his mouth open. Deep down in my heart, I am still secretly glad for the choice I made a few days ago. He has no doubt that if he chooses to be a pirate, the result will not be better than that of the pirates on the island. Most likely, as soon as they arrived at Marineford Pier, they were packed up and sent directly to impel down along with the Sky Pirates. Remember your identity and sympathize with the pirates, that is cruel to yourself as a marine. Sensing Crocodile's emotional change, Lu Chen said calmly without looking back. Hear the words. Yes, Teacher Lu Chen. After holding in his voice for a long time, Crocodile respectfully shouted without blushing. This shameless behavior made Katakuri roll his eyes. After a few days of training, the future Shichibukai pirate has completely surrendered in his heart. Certainly, advertisement-only Crocodile himself knew that the reason why he surrendered was not because he was crushed by Katakuri, but because the ultra-long-distance teleportation hit his blind spot in knowledge. So, although I don't know what's going on, I just feel it's awesome. The man in front of him who looks as young as him is full of mystery, making it difficult to see through. Ha ha ha. Hearing Crocodile's name, Lu Chen stood up with a loud smile, lifted up his cloak, and walked directly off the warship. Behind, Katakuri and Crocodile quickly followed. It is worth mentioning that Ka became Lu Chen's deputy. The military rank has also reached the level of colonel. I believe that after the military achievements of the Sky Pirates are reported, I can be promoted to Rear Admiral. As for Crocodile, start with the rank of Lieutenant Commander. Come to the amusement park of Sabaody Archipelago. Sitting on a familiar long chair, Lu Chen put his hands on his back and scanned the tourists around him. Just sitting here and watching people playing in the park, he can stay for most of the day, feel the joyful atmosphere around him, and then start thinking about life and the future. This is a unique habit of Lu Chen, but just then, he seemed to notice something, turned his head and looked in the direction of the Ferris wheel, raised his eyebrows, and showed a look of astonishment on his face. I saw the top of the bubble Ferris wheel towering into the sky. At some point, a tall figure stood there. It was a young woman with a classic Wano-kuni-style hairstyle, wearing pink tights and denim shorts, revealing a pair of long white legs, with a snow-white complexion and a spider tattoo on the side of the thigh. That slender waist wears a short sword. Even from a long distance, Lu Chen could feel the strength of this woman. Really? The other party seemed to notice Lu Chen's gaze and suddenly turned his head to look over. The next moment, the tall and slender figure flashed and disappeared from the top of the bubble Ferris wheel. When it appears again, already arrived at Lu Chen's side. Seen from a close distance, the woman's appearance is even more outstanding. Her makeup is classic and gentle, just like a weak woman. It is easy to confuse outsiders. Hello, Mr. Lu Chen, my name is Guillaume, and first I'm a marine recruit reporting from Sister Yi's hometown. The woman's beautiful eyes stared at Lu Chen, her cheeks flushed a little, and she lowered her head and said hello softly. For 0.6 this. Lu Chen nodded casually. He knew that it was indeed the future admiral's replacement, Momosagi Vice Admiral. At this time, a young girl in her teens. However, he himself is quite powerful. He has obviously practiced Marine 6 styles. You don't need to guess to know that Jia Ding was taught by Sister Yi when she returned to her hometown. Well, it's a good seedling, yes, no wonder Sister Yi is so kind to you and has good qualifications. Lu Chen stood up and said politely. As for Katakuri and Crocodile behind him, they couldn't help but glance at the girl in front of them. She was too strong. Ah, thank you for the compliment, passerby. Hearing Lu Chen's words, Guionshu blushed and thanked him. Being able to get comments from idols makes the girl feel extremely excited. Okay, there's no need to say more polite words. Sister Yi leaves you to me, so come with me. Lu Chen smiled lightly. Immediately, he took everyone away, took the warship, and sailed directly towards the future country of the Machine Island. Chapter 101. Secret Arrest of Vegapunk, please customize. Advertisement Grand Line, Mechanism Island. At a nearby marine base, Lu Chen and others transferred to a merchant ship and quietly arrived at the future kingdom of Baltimore. There are mechanical creatures everywhere in an architectural style full of science fiction, which seems to transport people to the future world. Even the well-informed Lu Chen was amazed. It is incredible that this island can give birth to technological civilization. The experiences of past and present lives are not enough to deduce how this place was born. Road. Captain, according to intelligence, Vegapunk's research institute is at the end of the island, which is close to the coast and can easily be escaped by the enemy. Katakuri was about to call Teacher Lu Chen, but suddenly stopped and quickly changed the name he had agreed upon. After all, this was a secret arrest. It is a military operation that cannot be exposed. Therefore, the whereabouts of Lu Chen and others naturally need to be disguised. There were not many people taking them, only Katakuri and Crocodile. There is also Guillaume that I picked up at Sabaody Archipelago some time ago. There are 3 men and 1 woman, wearing cloaks and hiding their appearance under hats. Although they look out of place in the future kingdom, they are at least more eye-catching than marine. Technology 27 that surpasses the world for 500 years? Is there really such a genius? Crocodile looked shocked. Even with his arrogant character, it was incredible. How terrifying it would be if we were blessed by this kind of technology. Apparently, the world government also made secret arrests because of this. This island has never lacked geniuses, but geniuses like Vegapunk are probably rare in ancient times and modern times. Lu Chen said lightly. Everyone was extremely shocked when they heard his words. Not long after, when they came to the end of the Machine Island, a research institute hidden in the hills appeared in front of everyone. A lot of surveillance around. After sensing it carefully, Lu Chen turned to Kotaku and said. Then, before a few people could react, his figure gradually turned into an electric arc, and he left here directly as an element, disappearing from everyone's perception range. Let's see your performance in this operation. Lu Chen's faint voice came slowly from the distance. People completely disappeared. For a moment, Katakuri and Crocodile looked at each other in shock. Only the new one was round, with a blush on his face. Very excited. Is this Lord Lu Chen a test for us? Oh, I was actually tested by Lord Lu Chen. The girl was very excited, clenching her little fists, and her whole body was full of energy. Katakuri, on the other hand, knew Lu Chen well and knew that this action was not simple. With a secret arrest, we cannot allow anyone to escape, and we cannot let the outside world know our existence. Having said this, he glanced sideways at Crocodile and said, deform the mountains near the research institute to desert. Let's avoid surveillance and go inside first. Kaur, who has long awakened observation hockey, leads the way with ease and familiarity with driving. The 3 of them had an unimpeded journey and successfully entered the impregnable research institute. And this time, advertisement Lu Chen, who was standing on the top of an ancient tree near the mountain, showed a faint smile. Since you have sound legs, let's move forward. He has already started working on cultivating a new generation of Marines. However, young people with good qualifications are hard to find. And the world is so big, if you want to find those people in the original work, it will undoubtedly be as big as the ocean. No rush, there's still time, Lu Chen whispered to himself. Next moment, the research institute hidden within the mountains suddenly heard violent loud noises and vibrations. Boom! The door of the research institute was thrown open, and 3 figures flew out at the same time, breaking countless ancient trees before finally stopping. Dust rose into the sky, obscuring the view. You brats dare to break in? In a wild laughter, the words fell. From the dust, strong figures rushed out one after another, chasing the 3 people who flew backwards. Damn, how careless! Katakuri touched bloodline at the corner of his mouth and stood up. Is this the power of science? Crocodile gritted his teeth and stood up, his eyes slightly palpitating. I thought scientists were all weak. It seems that the previous stereotype led to underestimating the enemy. The only girl, Zion Yuan, turned over and jumped up, casually drawing out the saber on her slender waist, wary of the enemies chasing after her. The first mission ended in failure, because he was discovered by the target and fought back. This means that secrets are no longer secrets. Click. But at this moment, an electric arc flashed in the void, instantly penetrating through the chasing figures, releasing a blazing pale electric light. Almost a face-to-face. The enemies who were chasing them fell down covered in charred black. Vegapunk, please come with me. The dust gradually disappeared, and the arc flashed, and Lu Chen's figure appeared in front of the research institute. And opposite him, it was a man wearing a white coat, with eyes, messy hair, and a crazy face. You think you are Vice Admiral? Vegapunk was about to retort, but when he saw Lu Chen's appearance clearly, he couldn't help but scream. Next moment, his face changed drastically, his eyes stared at Lu Chen in horror, and he growled. Marine? It seems that the world government is already aware of our research. As soon as this statement came out, the expressions of those who had just rushed out of the research institute suddenly changed dramatically, with horror on their faces. God's punishment, Lu Chen, are you here on behalf of world government? Vegapunk asked, staring at Lu Chen. No, I'm here on my own behalf. Of course, the world government also has to go through a process. Advertisement, Lu Chen said lightly. In the original work, the position of the mad scientist in front of him is unclear. Really? After hearing Lu Chen's words, Vegapunk showed a meaningful smile on his face. Interesting, I underestimated you, world government, what do you want? The design of life or the bloodline factors of living things? Hearing Lu Chen's words, Vegapunk's pupils shrank. He didn't expect that his research would have been known to the world government. Moreover, even the core results are clear. Come with me, take your team with you, or you will know the consequences. Lu Chen looked at Vegapunk and said. The tone was very calm. But Vegapunk knew very well how terrifying the man in front of him was. How can a man like you work for the world government? When he came to Lu Chen's side, Vegapunk asked in a low voice. No, I only work for justice. In response, Lu Chen responded calmly, making Vegapunk laugh. 940. But the next moment, Lu Chen added, of course, when you enter the Marine Scientific Research Department in the future, you should become my subordinate. The words fell. Vegapunk couldn't laugh anymore. Not far away, Katakuri and the others were looking at this scene in shock. Unexpectedly, when Lu Chen appeared, there was no decent resistance. The difference between this and the counterattack they encountered when they broke into the research institute can be said to be as far away as the endless sea. Oh, do you have a boat? Half a day later, but that's not what he needs to care about. At this time, Suja Punk asked. Dozens of research institute personnel and huge machines were carried out and placed on the deck of the huge ship that had been waiting for a long time. After finishing speaking, he was disappointed and did not see Lu Chen's expression change. Keep an eye on them. Don't let any data be left behind. Take away all personnel and research results. In one sentence, Vegapunk was immediately speechless. No, but I know there is a ship docked in the direction of your coast. Lu Chen knows this very well. The corners of Lu Chen's mouth raised. But just before sailing, Vegapunk looked at Lu Chen and finally said frankly, although the staff of the institute are here, I still want to say that not everyone is here. As long as Vegapunk is brought back to naval headquarters, the mission will be completed, and he will successfully become the founder of the Marine Science Department. He looked at Lu Chen for a long time before finally sighing. Lu Chen waved his hand and ordered directly. In the face of the most famous legend in this sea, there is no way to resist. Of course he didn't know. Chapter 102. In charge of the Marine Scientific Research Department, please customize. Advertisement. With Lu Chen's intervention, the mission went surprisingly smoothly. There was basically no resistance, and the entire Vegapunk Research Institute was packed away. A ship full of technology is speeding on the sea. 1 day has passed since I left the island. Marineford is not far away. Lu Chen stood at the bow of the ship with a cigarette in his mouth. He took out his life card and found that the signs of burning seemed to be more serious than the previous few days. The mission is over, let's go see West Blue. With a low murmur, he carefully put away the life card. Then he turned around and returned to the cabin. After arriving at Marineford successfully, Marshal Kong was surprised by the speed with which Lu Chen completed the task. Originally, he thought it would take at least half a month. But now, in just a few days, it was completed, and he also brought Vegapunk and his research institute back. Now that the person has been arrested, his future is up to you to decide. Marshal Kong looked at Lu Chen and smiled lightly. The world government has authorized you to serve as the director of Marine Scientific Research Department and lead Marine Scientific and Technological Development. If we can persuade Vegapunk to join, I believe that Marine's technology will make a substantial leap forward. How about it? Are you sure you can recruit this scientist? According to the world government's wishes, Vegapunk was first arrested, and then used hard and soft tactics to make the scientist succumb to the prestige of the world government, and finally use it for his own use. However, this task was given to Lu Chen. Taking charge of a scientific department is the Admiral's responsibility in the original work. No doubt. Although Lu Chen only holds the position of Vice Admiral, his status within Marine is no less than that of Admiral. This is also the reason why the world government will rest assured and hand over the science department to him. At least, staying in the science department for a long time can be regarded as an alternative promotion before I have thought about transferring to the branch. But for Lu Chen, it was a bit strange. He frowned and asked in a solemn voice, "What reason do you have to believe in the world government?" No matter how you look at it, a genius with 500 years of advanced world technology is handed over to him, which is puzzling. Because this is the request of the 5 elders. Marshal Kong didn't hide anything. He looked at Lu Chen with a hint of expectation and said, "You have never been interested in government affairs, but in the past few years, the 5 elders have changed. But because it's not yet time, the world government has not publicized it yet. This news can be said to be only known to Marine's top brass. I'm afraid no one below Vice Admiral is qualified to get it. Only Admiral and above will know this absolute secret." But Lu Chen is not an ordinary Vice Admiral, so he is naturally not outside Marshal Kong's consideration. What does that have to do with the question I just asked? Lu Chen asked with a frown. Of course it does. Advertisement. Marshal Kong smiled lightly and said, "You may not know that one of the 5 elders has a lot to do with you." Lu Chen, immediately confused. Origin? He had no memory of any contact he had with the Celestial Dragons. Except for the Rocks era, when I was stationed at the G2 branch, I had indirect contact with the Celestial Dragons. Etc. Rocks era? Thinking of this, Lu Chen suddenly raised his head and looked at Marshal Kong in surprise. From the look in his eyes, he was basically sure. One of the Celestial Dragons from the Valley of the Gods incident? Ha ha ha, yes, although the Celestial Dragons are hateful, it is not easy to become the 5 elders. Having said this, Marshal Kong reminded in a deep voice, "Although they are willing to believe you, if you keep rejecting Admiral's promotion, I'm afraid you will lose the trust of the 5 elders." In the eyes of Marshal Marine, the 5 elders, the people in charge of the world government, are different from the naval headquarters. That is a paramount mission that overrides naval headquarters. Although I am very optimistic about Lu Chen's future, if I continue to refuse Holy Land's promotion to Admiral, I will lose the trust of the 5 elders one day. This is not the result that Marshal Kong wants to see. That's why he opened his mouth to remind Lu Chen. After all, as Marine's most legendary hero, Marshal Kong didn't want to see the hero treated coldly. "Mr. Kong is worrying too much, I just like freedom." Lu Chen smiled lightly. It was still the same tune. Marshal Kong was used to it, so he let him go. After leaving the Marshal's office, Lu Chen went straight to the room where Vegapunk was. "Take these scientists to the Marine Scientific Research Department to get used to it." "Yes, Teacher Lu Chen," Katakuri and Crocodile saluted. Then he turned around and looked at the scientists like Vegapunk. "What?" Hearing Lu Chen's words, Vegapunk was shocked and couldn't help but ask, "Are we going now? Don't we need to interrogate, or go to the Holy Land Marijoy?" You know, in the minds of these scientists, they obviously think so. After arriving at naval headquarters, the next step is to be sent to world government, which is the Holy Land Marijoy. Pity. They didn't see anyone big. When Lu Chen came back, he sent them directly to the Marine Scientific Research Department. In other words, these arrested people were sent to work directly without being interrogated? For a moment, everyone in Vegapunk was dumbfounded and everyone froze in place. Especially Vegapunk. I feel an unspeakable feeling in my heart. Advertisement with his pride in his research results, he naturally knows that the life design represents an extremely huge prospect for scientific and technological applications. Even the world government is wary of this. After arresting them, they must at least be summoned by important figures in the Holy Land to be worthy of their scientific research results. But now, so casually sending these scientists away, it was hard for everyone to accept it for a while. "The world government has given me the authority, and I will be solely responsible for your future work." Seeing the shocked faces of Vegapunk and others, Lu Chen smiled lightly, made an invitation gesture, and said with a smile, "Please, stay in my department, I hope I can use you in the future." After saying that, without waiting for Vegapunk to react, he turned around and left. Seeing this, everyone followed him one after another. If you don't leave now, God knows what you will face. At least, when they were escorted here, they didn't feel the humiliation of being prisoners in front of Lu Chen. That's enough. Marine Scientific Research Department. Lu Chen also arrived for the first time. It is a huge research base located deep in Marineford, the island. If there is a sea stone on the bottom of the warship, I don't know if it can pass through the comm belt. Now it is impossible to pass through the comm belt, which is really troublesome for navigation. Lu Chen said, looking at the dull Vegapunk next to him. As soon as this statement came out, the scientist who had been shocked just now suddenly became energetic, and his eyes behind the lenses shone with light. "How did you think of it? Sea stone has the smell of the sea. If you follow the method you said, it will be fine." "Oh my god, you are a user with the Thunderfruit, Li Jiaohao. Fruit ability. Doesn't that mean you have infinite power? It's absolutely feasible. Oh my god, Lu Chen Vice Admiral, were you a scientist before? The arrogant scientist just gave in. Not because these ideas are too advanced. What if we build a warship that is driven solely by electricity? In such a short period of time, scientists like Vegapunk suddenly looked at Lu Chen with admiration. And Lu Chen, in their minds, is already this kind of person. The look in his eyes was completely different from before. Vegapunk said with surprise on his face. Laser. A weapon that condenses endless light into a point. Hiss. Your idea is really genius. All scientists, including Vegapunk, took a breath. Electromagnetic gun. Even Katakuri and others found this change unbelievable. But according to theory, it is very likely to be successful in reality, but I have never thought in this direction before. Theoretically speaking, it is absolutely feasible, but since he was not a marine before, he would naturally not think of this aspect. Then using the refraction of light, is it possible to develop laser weapons? As a technology guru, what I like most is communicating with people who share a common language. On the way, I had several ideas raised by Lu Chen. Chapter 103. The irritable Brother Garp, please customize. Advertisement New World, an island in a certain sea area. The huge beluga pirate ship landed and happened to meet another pirate ship that had just rested. This is a battle between legendary pirate groups. 3 days and 3 nights later, the fighting subsided and the two parties sat arm in arm around the bonfire to celebrate. Gu la la la, when I heard that you and that guy Shiki met Lu Chen, I was shocked. The burly Whitebeard was sitting on the boulder, holding a wine barrel in one hand. After taking a sip, he looked at Roger and exclaimed. You can escape from the hands of the Monkey Brothers. It seems you have great luck. Hey, if you are willing to lend me your luck, Newgate, I will be grateful to you forever. Roger laughed while holding the wine glass, looking at the warrior next to Whitebeard, and grinned. With Lu Chen around, the sea will not be calm, but I want to do something unprecedented in my last moments. Event. This kind of writing is a code word that has been passed down from generation to generation in my Kazuki family. At this time, Odin, who had been immersed in research, raised his head in surprise. Hear this. This strengthened Roger's determination. He turned to stare at Whitebeard, his eyes more solemn than ever. Then, in the astonished eyes of Kazuki Odin and Whitebeard, he knelt down and kowtowed to Whitebeard. Please lend me this boy for 1 year. This is the biggest request in my life. I feel free to kneel down if I don't feel comfortable with it. After finishing speaking, he turned to Odin and knelt down to kowtow again. The movement here instantly alarmed the men of the two pirate groups. They were all dumbfounded, with disbelief on their faces. Damn it, that's our captain, how could he kneel down to others? Captain Roger, get up quickly and don't kneel to the enemy. Everyone, including Jabba, was extremely shocked and yelled at Roger. However, Roger seemed to have ignored everyone's shouts. His eyes were only on Whitebeard and Odin. The look on his face was unprecedentedly loyal. Are you kidding, Roger? You are planning to steal my family? At this time, Whitebeard also reacted and couldn't help but be angry. An aura as vast as the sea suddenly burst out from the burly giant, shaking the entire sea. I saw the sea surface rising layer by layer, 307 surrounding the entire island like a ribbon. The terrifying waves rose, casting a large shadow on the island. No one doubts that if the sea falls, it will directly submerge the island. By then, no one will be spared. Newgate, I'm dying soon, my last chance. If you can't do it, you will definitely die with regrets. The previous Battle of Wall, Lu Chen shocked me so much. If we only rely on our strength, we cannot contribute to this sea. Only by reaching the final island can we have a chance to break the current situation. Faced with Whitebeard's anger, Roger looked anxiously at Death and said anxiously. Even Odin next to him was frightened and waved quickly. Xiao Beiji, I want to go with him to see it, let me go. You are my brother, how is that possible? Just 1 year, Xiao Bai. Odin begged. He knew Whitebeard's character very well, and it was absolutely impossible to send his family to the enemy. However, the reason why Roger borrowed someone this time was to circumnavigate the world. So even though I am angry, I still stay rational. After hearing Odin's words, Whitebeard fell silent, gritting his teeth in displeasure. Newgate, at most I will give you the world's #1 position after I have circled the world. Roger next to him said. What nonsense are you talking about? Who cares about your so-called #1 in the world? Whitebeard snorted coldly. Although his tone was still irritable, it was finally calmer than before. Regardless of success or not, I will definitely return Odin after 1 year. Seeing that Whitebeard relented, Roger said while the iron was hot. Snort. Roger's answer was an arrogant snort. Obviously, it's settled. Although I don't know what is on the final island, I always have a hunch that all the secrets of the world must be buried there. Roger laughed heartily, looking forward to the journey ahead. That's all. After the two pirate groups got along for a few days, they left separately. It's the same as when we met. The only difference is that the samurai from Wano-kuni, Kazuki Odin, boarded Roger's pirate ship. Chegg. Advertisement Marineford, Naval Headquarters. According to New World Intelligence information, the Roger Pirates and the Whitebeard Pirates had brief contact. Marshal Kong held his forehead with a headache and said in a deep voice. But they separated soon, but according to intelligence, the samurai on the Whitebeard Pirates ship also disappeared. Yes, according to the information provided by New World, I suspect that the samurai has already boarded the Roger Pirates ship. Crane Vice Admiral opened the information on the desktop, lowered his head and said calmly, "As for the reason, I don't know yet." The words fell. The originally solemn atmosphere relaxed slightly. The brief contact between the two legendary pirate groups caused great tension and pressure for these marine executives. Chen, who was sitting aside, had a strange light in his eyes. Unexpectedly, it was finally going to start. Chen, what do you think is the reason for that warrior's whereabouts? At this time, Marshal Kong glanced at Chen. What he wants to hear most now is the marine hero's analysis. To this, Chen nodded slightly, glanced around the conference room, and then began to speak. Perhaps this samurai named Kazuki Oden has abilities that Roger must value. The samurai from Wano Kuni, the Kazuki family, if you have the chance, you can go and investigate. After finishing speaking, he sat quietly aside. After hearing his words, everyone in the conference room fell into thinking and silence. Marshal Kong looked at Chen with slightly surprised eyes. Wano Kuni, Kazuki family. This is something that most people know very little about, but unexpectedly, Chen actually pointed it out in one sentence. According to Marshal Kong, Chen must know something. However, Wano Kuni Marine cannot get involved at will. There are always some big shots in the Holy Land involved, even Marshal Marine, he doesn't want to mess with him unless necessary. Moreover, the country of warriors possesses extremely strong power. Unless Marines send high-end combat power, no matter how much Marines are sent, it is equivalent to sending food. Actually, no matter what the reason is, it's always right to keep a close eye on it. Chen added. Everyone agreed. However, in the vast sea, if you want to know the whereabouts of a pirate ship that has no territory, you will undoubtedly be looking for a needle in a haystack. This time, it was also because Marine happened to encounter the Roger Pirates. Marine was defeated though. But then, the news came back after encountering the arrival of the Whitebeard Pirates. The meeting dispersed. After everyone left, Marshal Kong left Chen behind. Wano Kuni involves some big figures in the Holy Land, and if he wants to investigate, he can't use Marine surface power. Mr. Sora wants to investigate Wano Kuni? Chen asked curiously. Yes, Wano Kuni's samurai, as well as Wano Kuni's current situation, according to some information from the CP spy, there seems to be a big pirate settled in Wano Kuni. And the samurai who jumped from the Whitebeard Pirates to the Roger Pirates, the Kazuki family, that's the last name of General Wano Kuni. So, Marine needs to know what's going on there. Why did the Kazuki family samurai from Wano Kuni board the big pirate ship? Marshal Kong said in a deep voice. Apparently after being reminded by Chen, he also discovered that there must be something special about the samurai who could force two legendary pirates to fight. If Mr. Sora wants to investigate Wano Kuni secretly, I have an undercover agent with personal contacts. The gap was so big that the Marshal looked confused. Chen said calmly. As for his identity, I can't reveal it. Haha, don't worry, I only need the results of the investigation. I don't care who the undercover agent you use is. That's good, I'll let him go to Wano Kuni to investigate everything secretly. Well, that's up to you. Marshal Kong nodded his thanks and walked out of the conference room immediately. After watching the Marshal leave, Chen took out an exquisite phone bug directly from his clothes. To know, if you want to make phone calls over long distances, you need to expand the signal infinitely. As a Thunderfruit user, it is easy to amplify electromagnetic signals. Master Chen? After dialing the number, the phone bug turned into a horrified face. The tone is also full of incredible. It seemed that he didn't expect that Chen would contact him. Marine has tacitly agreed to investigate Wano Kuni. Chen said straight to the point. What message do you need me to deliver? No need for any news, just stay over there and I'll notify you. Advertisement. After finishing speaking, Chen took the initiative to hang up the phone. Putting the phone bug back into his clothes, he slowly stood up and walked towards the conference room. On the way, every Marine I met saluted respectfully. The prestige of Marine heroes is rare in ancient and modern times. Back to the Marine Science Research Department, according to Chen's thinking prompts, the group led by Vegapunk has built a small assault boat. Fully electric drive with terrifying power. Once it is fully activated, it is as fast as a swordfish. Chen Vice Admiral, what do you think of this finished product? Seeing Chen appear, Vegapunk and others immediately stopped working and gathered around. It looked like they were waiting for the leader to inspect and praise these workers. Not bad, it's pretty much what I thought. Looking at the completed boat, Chen nodded with satisfaction, and then warned. Of course, other research should not be left behind, especially the warships crossing the Calm Belt. We hope to double the performance of marine warships within a year. After finishing speaking, he turned to look at Crocodile and ordered. Take this small boat and take the warship to West Blue. I will be there soon. Ah, yes, teacher. Crocodile was stunned for a moment, then realized what he was doing and quickly agreed. Teacher, what about me? Katakuri asked as he stood aside. Go together. Chen held his forehead, turned to the young girl Gion and shouted. If you don't mind, you can stay and watch. If you need anything, come to me anytime. Yes, Master Chen. Gion readily agreed. After all, she appears. With his strength, there is no need to stay with Chen. It is better to continue to hone it in the headquarters. After arranging everyone, Chen came to his scientific research department office. Another lab missing? Taking out the life card and looking at it, his expression changed slightly. The snow-white life card showed signs of burning on the edges more seriously, and occasionally a few sparks floated out. From the original size of a palm, now it is only half a palm. In the end, what happened? He whispered to himself. Although I really wanted to rush to West Blue immediately, I couldn't get there for a while. So, the group will make crocodile and card 2 steps. When he reaches West Blue, he uses the flying thunder god technique to teleport there. But, only a few days have passed. Brother Garp, who had disappeared for many days, came in a hurry. Boom. He roughly pushed open the office door. 2 stacks of Madara White Garp, grabbing a newspaper, walked in angrily, and then sat down on the sofa carelessly. Tell me the truth. Where did that boy Long go? Garp stared at Lu Chen and asked with an evil look in his eyes. To this, Lu Chen looked innocent and asked, Brother, didn't he make it very clear before he left the headquarters? My nephew is pursuing his own dream. Dream. It's okay not to say these 2 words, which immediately stimulated Garp. He suddenly stood up and slapped the newspaper in his hand directly in front of Lu Chen. He roared angrily. Brother, tell the truth, aren't these the so-called dreams? Lu Chen raised his eyebrows and realized that Garp was really angry. So I picked up the newspaper seriously and read it carefully. However, as he read the news content, the corners of his mouth could not help but curve. Looking at this appearance, Garp was almost furious. Okay, now I know. Lu Chen put down the newspaper and said calmly. Then is there anything you want to tell me? Garp asked. What reason is there to stop a man's dream? Brother, that's your son's dream. So, the overthrow of these kingdoms is his dream? Lu Chen, did you know this a long time ago? Calm down, what do you mean by a few kingdoms? What he wants to do is revolutionize the whole world. Revolution? To overthrow the corrupt world and build an ideal world, that is revolution? I kill you. Even if you kill me, there's nothing you can do to stop it. Looking at the furious Garp, Lu Confiying said calmly. Chapter 104. A great gift to the Revolutionary Army, please customize. Advertisement. One sentence immediately made Garp feel discouraged. The whole thing became listless. This is against Marine. His tone was quite helpless, and he immediately collapsed on the sofa, looking weak. No one wants to face their son in the future. However, since what Long did was published in the newspapers, it has naturally begun to attract the attention of the world government. Wanted and bounty are a matter of time. This kind of behavior that touches the bottom line of the world government makes the world government feel more threatened than opening 100 years of blank history. Because the essence of the existence of the Revolutionary Army is to overthrow it. In just a few years, it went from having no sense of existence to having overthrown several brutal kingdoms. The speed of development is so fast that it is difficult for the world to react. And this speed gets faster the further back you go. It is not difficult to imagine that when the world government notices the dragon, it will definitely take it extremely seriously and even show the most cautious attitude. However, this is not what the world government is most afraid of. After all, the threat displayed by the dragons now is just the essence of their existence, making the world government feel the crisis in the future. And Long's elders, Garp and Lu Chen, are probably the ones that the world government is most afraid of. At that time, it will definitely cause a major earthquake in marine and world government. No, it's a big earthquake all over the world. I can see Laozi. If he is allowed to develop, he will pose an unprecedented threat to the world government. Garp pointed at the newspaper on the table and said in a deep voice. That's World Economic Daily. The front page is devoted to reports about the legendary pirate. The dragon report only occupies a very small part, and it is still on the last page. However, for a parent, it is enough attention. Garp never expected that when he received news about his son again, it would be in the news. Moreover, it is a cause that runs counter to Marine's justice. The complex mood cannot be described in words. Well, if possible, it would be best to capture him before the world government pays attention. Garp sighed and looked at Lu Chen with wide eyes. That look was full of resentment. Brother, let me go for a run. Lu Chen softened his heart and said with a wry smile, but I have something to say beforehand. I can't guarantee whether I can catch him and bring him back. HMPH, with your strength, can he fly away? Just when he was about to smile, Garp was stunned, his face full of anger. Existence is reasonable. If their revolution can exist, it proves that this world is suitable. And if you would rather die than obey, don't you want to kill your nephew with your own hands? Lu Chen shook his head with an expression of, I'm trying my best. Aha. At this moment, Garp was speechless and choked. Let alone Lu Chen, even if he took action himself, he couldn't really kill his son. Is existence really reasonable? Revolution is to overthrow corruption, and the world is indeed very corrupt. But, why not join Marine and maintain justice in this sea? Well, he's also arrived at West Blue, so he'll be on his way. At this time, Lu Chen stood up, walked around the desk, and passed by Garp. He raised his hand and patted his brother on the shoulder, and said with a faint smile, in this world, good people cannot implement justice. After finishing speaking, he walked straight out of the office. The old man with a dull face was left inside so that he could think for himself. Alas, good job Garp the Fist. Why are you always so indecisive in front of Lu Chen? But Lu Chen didn't expect it. The nephew's revolution actually went to West Blue. It seems that the more rampant pirates are, the more decadent the kingdom will be. This is because the inaction of those in power will make the people's livelihood miserable. Buzz. After leaving the Marine Science Research Institute, Lu Chen directly performed the Flying Thunder God technique. Next moment, his figure became blurred and disappeared from the place in an instant. When he appeared again, he was already standing on a warship galloping on the sea. Teacher, From behind, Katakuri and Crocodile's frightened voices came. Turn around and look. I saw the eyes of the two people looking at me, full of horror and shock. Especially Crocodile, at this moment his heart completely surrendered to the right path. What a joke. I only got through the phone bug in the morning, when Lu Chen was still at naval headquarters. But how long has passed? Suddenly, he appeared on top of the speeding warship. Crocodile is sure that it was definitely not an illusion, and it was obviously that he traveled a long distance in an instant. How is this done? Arrived there, Lu Chen asked straight to the point. We have just entered West Blue, and we still have a few days of sailing to get to the branch of Sol Vice Admiral. Katakuri came back to his senses and quickly answered respectfully. No matter how the teacher does it, a teacher who can do it to this extent obviously has abilities that exceed his cognition. This moment, both Katakuri and Crocodile have a deeper sense of expectation for the future. Well, then go ahead, I'll leave alone. Lu Chen nodded and immediately walked into the cabin. Inside the hull of the warship, there is an empty warehouse, and a small ship made of steel is standing quietly in it. Teacher, where are you going? Advertisement. Katakuri and the others followed in and asked expectantly. Private matter. Lu Chen smiled lightly. Just 2 words immediately made the two of them look listless. Obviously, the teacher won't take them with them. This time, he was going to see his nephew. He didn't want too many people to know about his monkey family. Buzz. The warship's warehouse wall opened and the blue sea immediately poured in. Lu Chen jumped on the small ship specially built for him and instantly glided backwards out of the sea. Sizzling, wisps of pale electric arcs jumped around the entire steel hull, activating the power system at the stern, instantly bursting out with powerful power. Whoosh! The ship sailed across the sea, plowing out a gradual tunnel that spread to the end of the sky in an instant. Less than half a day, Lu Chen arrived at his destination. This is an island located on the edge of West Blue. At this moment, a war of resistance is breaking out in the countries on the island. The smoke is thick and the sound of fighting spreads throughout the country. All the people who hated the royal family took out sickles and hammers from their homes as weapons and gathered towards the resisting army, forming a huge force that frightened even the kingdom's army. The sky turned gray, the wind howled, and the lightning flashed. It seems to be announcing the end of the royal family in this country. This war was completely ended in less than a day. People rushed into the palace, destroyed the luxurious palace, and arrested the corrupt royal members. The atmosphere is crazy, violent and bloody, and as the initiator, the revolutionary army. At this time, he was standing on a tall building on the edge of the crowd, quietly looking at the crazy scene below, and a kingdom suddenly collapsed. Long, although I acknowledge your thoughts, every time I see the bloody process of subversion, I feel like even a pirate is nothing more than that. A burly man wearing a tight black sweater, his hands were covered with leather gloves and he held a Bible book in one hand. The indifferent face and white eyes showed a slight look of intolerance. Hip-hop, but this is revolution. Before Long could answer, Ivankov beside him said in a deep voice. Then it seems we have to adapt slowly, Crow muttered. But there is no time for us to adapt, and I have a feeling that the world government is about to take notice of our existence. Long was wearing a dark green cloak and said calmly, we must plant as many revolutionary seeds as possible before the world government notices. You all must remember that revolution is not a dinner party, but a ladder to overthrow another class's violent activities. Today's blood is tomorrow's peace. Only by overthrowing this decadent world can we rebuild an ideal world. Feeling the revolutionary atmosphere below, Long couldn't help but open his hands, with a fanatical look on his face. This is the ideal he has always longed for. I'm a little disappointed. At this moment, a faint voice that did not belong to everyone suddenly sounded from behind them. A moment. All the revolutionary troops present felt their backs to the Khanate exploded. The cold air rushed from the bottom of my feet to my forehead in an instant. Uncle. Long's forehead was covered with cold sweat, and he gritted his teeth and said in a deep voice. After saying that, he slowly turned around. I saw a black figure wearing a black cloak, including his whole body in the cloak. I don't know when, quietly appeared behind him. Although he couldn't see his real face, this familiar feeling still made Long feel surprised in his heart. Others, on the other hand, didn't even have the courage to turn around. However, this terrifying pressure soon dissipated. Including Big Bear, everyone couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief, and then they dared to turn around and look over. Lu Chen lifted his hat, revealing a handsome and young face. If you didn't know his identity and age, you wouldn't be able to believe that the legendary figure is so young. It is no exaggeration to say that the vitality that permeates Lu Chen's body is simply more vigorous than young people like them. Uncle of Dragon, Vice Admiral of Heavenly Punishment, legendary hero of Marine. Bartholomew Kuma looked over with wide eyes, his indifferent face full of solemnity. Although his tone was still gentle, it contained a rare tremor. Apparently dressed in casual clothes, it seems we are not in desperate situation yet. Ivankov muttered under his breath. Only then did everyone realize that although Lu Chen's appearance was unexpected, he was not wearing Marine's righteous clothes. In other words, it is worth pondering what identity the visitor uses. Although the team is average, the organization that has been formed in a short period of time is worthy of recognition. Lu Chen glanced at everyone and commented indifferently. Hearing this, everyone's expressions became ugly. But because it's Lu Chen, even if he doesn't accept it, he can only hold it in. Is it still possible to take action? Uncle, although we are weak now, we will definitely shock the world in the future. Long Ning looked at Lu Chen and gritted his teeth to defend his partners. But inside, I was still a little disappointed. I thought that my current achievements were enough to make me proud. Unexpectedly, in the eyes of his uncle, he received an average evaluation. Please give me flowers. It would be a lie to say there is no crackdown. What do you see? Regarding Long's defense, Lu Chen simply ignored it and stepped forward. He stepped forward, raised his hand and pointed at the scene of the palace in the distance and asked. There, the rebellious people destroyed the palace wantonly and arrested all members of the royal family. No matter men, women, old or young, they all become targets for angry people to vent their anger. I see resistance. Advertisement. Long frowned, feeling a little less confident in front of Lu Chen. I see a rotten country dying. Bartholomew Kuma followed. This is revolution, the passion to resist oppression. Awakening consciousness. Others also spoke. After everyone finished speaking, they would secretly glance at Lu Chen. It's disappointing and frustrating. From beginning to end, Lu Chen looked indifferent and solemn. Everyone knows that Long's revolutionary thoughts came from the teachings of this uncle. But now everyone has done it, but there was no joy or encouragement in the eyes of this legendary figure. It's a touch of disappointment. Uncle, did I do something wrong? Seeing Lu Chen's disappointment, Long clenched his fists and gritted his teeth and asked sadly. No, you did the right thing, but you didn't do enough. Lu Chen shook his head and said, this is the reason why I am disappointed. Revolution is accompanied by blood and violence, but it will never hurt innocent people, but face the powerful and oppressors. You destroyed the palace, you destroyed the order of this country. Have you ever thought about how to rebuild it? Look at those people, they have lost their minds. They are not a revolutionary army, they are just a bunch of rabble. It only vents the resentment and anger in the heart, but does not have the depth of revolutionary thought. Zero. Having said this, Lu Chen tilted his head slightly, stared into Long's eyes, and said, an undisciplined organization, let alone fighting against the world government, even Marine can easily destroy it. After finishing speaking, he raised his right hand and turned his palm downwards. Hear these words. Everyone, including Long, was stunned. Everyone fell silent. These words were like swords, stabbing into their hearts one after another. Not to mention, I want to teach you the ultimate killer weapon. Lu Chen said lightly. He was like an elder mentor, and every word he said shocked these young people beyond measure. But that's how the army is? Bartholomew Kuma asked in confusion. Only those who have experienced bloodshed and cruelty can become the strongest warriors in the army. Others also spoke, but this time, Long had no solution. Yes, the first thing the army pays attention to is combat effectiveness. Lu Chen nodded and said, however, the combat effectiveness of the army does not lie in blood and brutality, nor in how many people are killed, but in speak of uncompromising discipline, iron will, and lofty moral standards. If you can do all three, you will be an invincible iron-blooded warrior. Hiss. As soon as Lu Chen finished speaking, there were gasps of cold air all around again. But does such an army really exist in reality? Long suddenly raised his head and looked at Lu Chen with burning eyes, full of hope. You must know that discipline is not difficult, but iron will is difficult, but as long as you put your heart into it, you can still achieve it. However, for the military, morality is equivalent to shackles. It is a shackle that limits combat effectiveness. In the endlessly distant east, there exists such an army. Lu Chen looked at the sun in the east and said with great emotion. Hear the words. Long's expression was shocked, his eyes full of horror. He knew that his uncle would never lie. If he said he did, it must be true. But how can we do it? This is for you. At this time, Lu Chen took out a stack of information from his cloak and handed it directly to his nephew beside him. That's what he wrote, how to build an invincible army. It's all in there, snapped. Lighting a cigarette, Lu Chen slowly blew out a smoke ring. This is a great gift to our revolutionary army. But the dragon roared excitedly into the sky, after finishing speaking. His face was all red. Looking at the excited nephew, a satisfied smile appeared on his face. After finishing speaking, he looked around and saw Lu Chen's figure there. 3 major disciplines? Go ahead and don't let me down. Sizzling, his body turned into electric current, flickering in the void, and soon disappeared. Da Shang and the others next to him couldn't help but look puzzled. What's this? Long took a thick stack of information and flipped through it. He was completely immersed in it. He didn't even notice that Lu Chen had left. He even trembled with excitement. After taking a look, they all showed doubts. I can't see clearly what the 8 items are. In situ. As the leader of the revolutionary army, they had never seen Long be as excited as a child. Da Shang, Ivankov and others couldn't bear it anymore and quietly moved forward. Chapter 105. Giving birth. The new member of the monkey family, please customize. Advertisement. After taking care of his nephew's revolutionary cause, Lu Chen returned the same way and directly caught up with the warship. A few days passed in a flash. The warship docked at the military base in West Blue, and the branch's top commander was the giant Vice Admiral Saul. Lu Chen's arrival once again made Marine in this branch feel inexplicably excited. This is the second time Vice Admiral has arrived. Yes, the legendary figure came to our department twice. What a great honor. Look, the person wearing a scarf behind Lu Chen Vice Admiral is one of the Marine supernovas, Katakuri. Hiss, it is said that he is a student of Vice Admiral. It's so scary, he didn't even look over, so I felt depressed. It is rumored that Katakuri is Ant's son. Damn it, is it real or fake, the son of a pirate? Shut up, this is such a boring thing. Yes, it is said that someone once used the name of a pirate's son to ridicule him, which finally angered Katakuri and knocked him out with a punch. I have also heard this rumor. Because he is the son of a pirate, he cares about justice more than anyone else. Yes, in order to prevent the justice of the cloak behind my back from being stained, I would rather sleep standing up than land on my back. A real man Katakuri. Who is that guy with the slick back hair next to him? You don't know? That's the sand crocodile with the power of the lobia fruit, and he's also one of the students of Vice Admiral. It is said that this guy also has the potential to become a new generation of monsters. Invincible in the desert is the evaluation of this monster. Compared to Lu Chen's first arrival, now that his appearance has attracted the most attention, it is actually not him. It's Katakuri and Crocodile, 283, behind them. The marine officer from the branch looked at the two men with envy in his eyes. What a supreme honor it is to be favored by the Vice Admiral. It can be said, for many new marine soldiers, that is a more honorable achievement than becoming a marine admiral. It seems we are very popular among marines. Crocodile held a golden cane and looked around, with a touch of pride on his face unconsciously. Instead of bathing in the teacher's halo, it is better to use your true strength to win the respect of everyone. Katakuri said calmly. Damn it, didn't you hear? My evaluation is not much lower than yours. Crocodile growled angrily. That means evaluation and strength are not equal, you cannot afford this honor. B********************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************�e Before Crocodile could finish speaking, Katakuri interrupted lightly. In one sentence, Crocodile was immediately speechless. Although he was a few years younger than Katakuri, the difference in strength was still unacceptable. Humph, your advantage is just to stay with the teacher for a few more years. Don't use your superficial eyes to erase my efforts. The scarf wrapped Katakuri's mouth and said calmly, in order to chase the real monster, I work harder than everyone else. The tone was very calm, but anyone can hear the great determination contained in this. In Katakuri's view, the word, monster, negates the value of his efforts. Outsiders don't know it, but they still understand it. But Crocodile, during this period of time together, it would be insulting to still deny the value of his efforts. Sorry, but I won't lose to you. Crocodile looked stiff and finally apologized. The real monsters naturally referred to the three people Kuzan and Sakazuki. It can be said, during this time together, he saw what hard work meant. And because of this, Katakuri is known as a monster along with Kizaru, Aokiji and Akainu. Everyone's efforts are worthy of respect. Shaosha, your hockey and physical skills still need to be strengthened and you should not rely too much on the ability of the fruit. Lu Chen, who was walking in front, smiled lightly without looking back. Teacher, don't worry, I will strengthen my hard training on Lao Sha. Crocodile nodded heavily. Katakuri, on the other hand, narrowed his eyes slightly, flashing a hint of cunning. Lao Sha next to him suddenly turned ugly. This is, I want to publicize my personal vendetta. After staying at the Seoul Vice Admiral branch for half a day, Lu Chen couldn't wait to leave. Then he left alone on a small ship. Hey, I haven't noticed in the past few days, and the life card has shrunk again. Lu Chen took out the life card and took a look, and couldn't help but take a breath. The life card, which was originally as big as a palm, gradually burned down to less than 1/5. This means, Albia's physical condition at this moment has almost reached a life-threatening state. Something I've always been worried about. This made the legendary hero of Marine confused. Boom! Electricity burst out, surrounded his body, and poured into the speedboat under his feet, bursting out with the strongest power. The next moment, the speedboat broke through the water like a magic sword and flew away at extremely high speed. Less than half an hour. After crossing hundreds of kilometers, relying on the guidance of the lifeguard, I could vaguely see a small black dot appearing at the end of the sea level. Advertisement that's an island. As the distance approached, Lu Chen suddenly saw an ancient tree standing as huge as a mountain. The tree crown was opened like a parasol, casting a large amount of shadow. Ohara, the tree of all knowledge. It's indeed her. Although Lu Chen had already expected it, but when it came time to actually face it, I still felt a little uneasy and nervous in my heart. Vice Admiral, who is famous all over the world, also showed complicated emotions at this moment. Bang! It wasn't until the speedboat arrived at the pier and gently touched the shore that Lu Chen woke up. I am the Vice Admiral, how could I be afraid? Lu Chen whispered to himself. Then he jumped onto the pier and walked straight towards the Tree of Omniscientity. Is this the Tree of Omniscient? It's said to be a library that can hold all the books. Standing under the huge ancient tree, Lu Chen looked up and felt an illusion of insignificance. This library contains the most precious books in this sea. Many of them are already unique copies. It has a long history, full of heavy historical traces. Although I really want to see the history of this sea. Slowly looking back, Lu Chen walked around the library and walked away, but I'm not free now. After talking to himself, he left alone. But, when he went deep into the island and arrived at the town, Lu Chen, dressed in marine attire, was greatly shocked. Ah, it's Marine. What is Marine doing here? It's so scary. Look at his epaulets. At least he's a Marine Vice Admiral. Marine Vice Admiral, how terrible is that? Mom, is this Marine? So handsome. Shut up, daughter, and don't cause trouble. Did someone commit a crime on the island? It was accompanied by a lot of discussion among the town residents. The eyes they looked at Lu Chen were full of fear, anxiety, and deep uneasiness. In particular, Some men and women wearing hats, neatly dressed, and full of scholarly temperament. In his eyes, there was a hint of vigilance and fear. Some even turned around and ran away, totally unconcealable panic. It seems that Lu Chen is not Vice Admiral, but demons from hell. It will bring endless disasters to this island, to this. Lu Chen seemed to have never heard of it. His mind was all focused on the life card in his hand. Guided by the guide, he walked out of the town and came to a suburb with lush vegetation. Medieval European-style cabins line both sides of the road, with women and children laughing and playing. Men, carrying tools, go out hunting. It looks like a peaceful day. Some children even jumped curiously and followed him when they saw Lu Chen. Big eyes, full of innocence and curiosity. However, this phenomenon was quickly taken away by the women at home. Standing quietly in the distance, his eyes were slightly confused, looking at Lu Chen, the uninvited guest. Snap! At this time, Lu Chen's footsteps suddenly stopped. In the palm of his hand, a burning life card seemed to be endowed with vitality, sliding slowly in his palm. The direction is exactly in front of him, a medieval European-style cabin. The yard is clean and tidy, the grass is green, as magnificent as jade, and full of vitality. Wow wow wow, not even close yet. Faintly, you can hear the cry of a baby coming from inside the wooden house. Very loud. The look on Lu Chen's face suddenly showed shock and depression. Observation Hockey's perception. It can be clearly felt that two weak breaths of life are cuddling closely together. But the strange thing is, Hockey, who has already reached observation and can foresee the future, cannot accurately perceive who these two auras are. I have to say, it's really weird. However, Lu Chen felt uneasy and restrained in his heart. Because, this feeling, just like when I met Albia. Squeak. At this time, the door of the wooden house suddenly opened. I saw two other people with auras inside the house, walking out of it. At the same time, he kept complaining. Damn it, what's going on with your sister? She suddenly has a child, and you don't know whose it is. I really don't know what she did. A woman with a face full of T.S. Madara, vented her displeasure at the man next to her. Advertisement, then what can I do? She is my sister, should I just ignore her? The man frowned and growled. What about this kid? How do I know? If you don't even have a father, then you might as well give it to someone else. The couple chattered in dissatisfied tones, but when he turned around and saw Lu Chen standing quietly outside the yard, he was stunned. Dressed in marine attire, full of majesty and righteousness. Just standing there is enough for ordinary people to feel the shock of justice. You. What do you want to do? It took a while for the man to react, and he stammered and asked with cold sweat on his forehead. Find someone. Lu Chen responded calmly. Who are you looking for? I'll be elegant. Boom! Lu Chen's voice fell. The man looked panicked and immediately pushed open the closed door. He stumbled and broke a lot of furniture, making a loud noise. Outside the door, the woman also reacted and her pupils could not help but shrink. His expression made him cry on the spot. Albia must have broken some law. I have also heard that she has been doing things that violate the law. This Master Marine, she has nothing to do with me. For this woman's cry, Lu Chen seemed unaware, because in the dim wooden house, a weak figure gradually walked out. She was wearing loose pajamas, holding her infant baby in her arms, and staggered out. The sun shone down, reflecting her pale cheeks without any color. But a pair of big eyes bloomed with blazing light. The corners of his mouth were slightly raised, revealing a smile as bright as the sun. Beyond the fence, Lu Chen just stood like this. Looking into each other's eyes, the air was filled with an unspeakable charm. In sight, the world disappeared. Only Albia and the baby in her arms were left. Clang. At this moment, the man left and came back again. After knocking over the chair, he came out in a panic. Sister, who is this? After noticing that the atmosphere at the scene was a bit subtle, he couldn't help but ask. The words fell. Lu Chen smiled. A bright smile spread across her lips. There is infinite warmth in his eyes. It's Robin's dad. Albia held the infant baby in her hands, her white neck slightly raised, like a proud white swan. Click. The words just fell. 2.1 The couple outside the door were stunned and petrified on the spot. Squeak. Lu Chen pushed open the small door of the fence and walked straight in. When he came to Albia, he lowered his head and glanced at the swaddled baby. She has a pink face and is very cute when she is asleep. Boy or girl? Lu Chen asked. Then he took the swaddle in Albia's arms and looked closely at the sleeping baby with a wrinkled nose. It's a girl. I've inherited it from you. It's very cute. When you grow up, you will definitely be a great hero among girls. I don't want her to become a hero. Girls should be pretty. Heroes among women can also be beautiful. After putting Albia and little Robin to sleep, the group walked out of the yard. A harmonious picture, like a couple who has been living together for many years. There was dead silence on the other side of the phone. Lu Chen didn't bother to respond to this. The young couple just now disappeared. We have a new member of the monkey family. Dial the bug again. The words fell. He took out a phone bug and placed it quietly in the palm of his hand. After hanging up, C27 the first phone call was to Katakuyu. Half an hour later, without giving Garp any chance to complain, Lu Chen interrupted him directly and said with uncontrollable joy. They know each other's thoughts without saying anything. I need to retreat for a while. If you have a mission, you can leave West Blue first. The two of them chatted naturally and walked into the wooden house. Chapter 106. Garp's niece, Long's sister, please customize. Advertisement Naval Headquarters, inside the Marine Admiral office. As a close friend for many years, Garp would always come to Sengoku to chat with him no matter what happened. Bickering and hurting each other every day is also the fun of these two old friends. Staff Officer He, who was sitting next to him, looked at the quarrel between the two people with a speechless expression. Gulu gulu, but at this moment, the phone bug in Garp's arms suddenly vibrated. A moment. Sengoku and Garp stopped and stared at each other. Humph, this B********* D little brother must have taken the initiative to call me for the first time. Taking out the phone bug, Garp was stunned for a moment and then complained angrily. It can be said that this is an unprecedented first time. No wonder Garp was so surprised. Sengoku and Counselor He, who knew Lu Chen well, also knew it, so they both looked surprised. Brother Lu Chen has never taken the initiative to contact you, but now he is trying to contact you. I think he has encountered a problem. Sengoku analyzed it a little, and his tone became solemn, saying, it's still a big problem, so much so that he needs to take the initiative to contact you. Yes, according to Lu Chen's character, he will not take the initiative to contact people, even if it is Marshal Mr. Kong. Vice Admiral He next to him also frowned and said in a deep voice, what's more, if it's your brother who takes the initiative to contact you, there will obviously be something he can't solve. Nani? Garp, who was complaining carelessly at first, was immediately dumbfounded after hearing the words of the two old guys. He didn't think it was that complicated. When I heard it at this time, it did seem like that was the case. For a moment, Garp was shocked and couldn't wait to answer the call. The two old guys answered the phone without any hesitation. However, due to his personality, he still complained when he opened his mouth. Eek. Before his brother could say a word, Lu Chen on the other side of the phone interrupted him. We have a new member of the monkey family. The voice came with a hint of surprise and irrepressible excitement. The phone bug transformed into Lu Chen, looking slightly excited. Neither Garp nor Sengoku have ever seen Lu Chen show such rich expressions and emotions. Combined with the sentence just now 27, the answer is ready to come out. The office fell silent and became dead. The atmosphere was a little dull. Garp held the phone bug, opened his mouth wide, and his nose flowed out, and his whole body was petrified on the spot. Staff Officer He and Sengoku Admiral next to him were all stunned and did not react for a moment. However, the two of them were not from the monkey family after all, so after being stunned for a while, they quietly left the office. At this time, only then did Garp react. Smelly brother, what are you talking about? There was already speculation in his heart, but he still couldn't believe it and shouted incoherently. This is so sudden, so much so that this Marine Admiral couldn't digest it for a while. I thought Lu Chen was joking. I have a child. Lu Chen's voice came over the phone, and his tone was more serious than ever. Only then did Garp become convinced that the stinky brother was not joking. Is he a man? He asked with a trembling tone. It's the little princess. Lu Chen said with a smile. What, it's actually a girl? Garp's eyes widened with shock on his face, but then, the shock on his face gradually turned into uneasiness and anxiety. Smelly brother, he is actually a girl, what should I do? Lu Chen was speechless. What is this and what is it? Of course, he naturally doesn't know, but for Garp, most of the monkey family are men, so education has always been rough and simple. If it's a girl, in Garp's mind, neither he nor Lu Chen has the ability to educate. That's why I feel anxious and uneasy. Girls, of course, cannot be thrown into the mountains and forests from an early age like men to do hard training. You can't just take action casually, the education of love. Brother, with your personality, can you really teach girls well? Garp asked in a rather solemn tone. An impulsive man like you doesn't have the patience to teach a girl. Reckless describes you very aptly, brother. Lu Chen smiled lightly and said, you can rest assured that I know how to teach a child. If you don't believe it, you can just look at the dragon and you will know. Advertisement, it would be better not to say this. As soon as it was mentioned, Garp became angry. What about the boy? Now that he has a sister, he must take on the responsibility of being an older brother. Don't worry, I just gave him a big gift. It should be fine in a while. Lu Chen smiled and said, I will inform him of the fact that he has a sister later. Very good, what is learning? Garp asked at this time. Robin. Lu Chen smiled and said, Monkey D. Robin. No matter what the problem is, just ask me if you have any questions, and when you come back, remember to show me little Robin. New. Hang up on the phone bug. Lu Chen looked at the quiet environment around him, his face showing warmth that he had never seen before. Then, he dialed Long's phone. Unlike Garp, Lu Chen not only informed Robin of his existence, but also informed him of the existence of his Aunt Albia. Moreover, even O'Hara, who was there, informed the leader of the Revolutionary Army who already had a little leadership style. Are you kidding me, uncle? We have only been apart for a few days? Long was shocked. We just met a few days ago, but in the blink of an eye, I have a younger sister. The word sister is undoubtedly a sudden and confusing existence for this leader of the Revolutionary Army. I'm just telling you, that's all. Lu Chen was too lazy to explain Long's doubts. I believe that the information he provided, with the intelligence capabilities of the Revolutionary Army, will soon know whether it is true or false. Hang up on the phone bug. Standing outside the door of the cabin, Lu Chen took out a cigarette and held it in his mouth. Just about to light it, he shook his head and smiled bitterly, then threw the cigarette into the trash can. Well, when the protagonist child is born, she will be called Aunt Robin. When Lu Chen thought of that scene, he felt bad taste in his heart. Have to say, little Robin's appearance direction is completely inherited from his mother Albia's excellent genes. In terms of physical fitness, he inherited it from Lu Chen. Therefore, this is the crystallization of the best love genes from both parents. Lu Chen settled in Ohara directly because Robin was just born. Anyway, it's not time yet for this sea. He took off his marine uniform of justice and lived peacefully on this island with Robin and Orbia just like an ordinary person. Every morning, Lu Chen pushed the stroller and Albia took his arm and went out. When you get to the town, buy your daily necessities and then go back home. Occasionally, he and Albia would go to the Tree of Omniscient Library. Life during this period, Lu Chen can be said to have fully integrated into it. If you don't know, it's hard to imagine that this is the Vice Admiral who shakes the sea. But, on Ohara Island, there are still many people who know Lu Chen's identity. In particular, the scholars of Ohara. Every time he arrives at the Tree of Omniscient Library, what Lu Chen has to deal with is not an earth-shattering battle. It's the talk of scholars. To this, Lu Chen said it didn't matter. In this world, this sea, whether they are pirates or scholars, most people even within Marine are extremely paranoid. Especially those who have achieved higher levels of achievement in their respective fields. Therefore, Lu Chen expressed neutrality towards the complaints of scholars and their persistence in pursuing the historical truth. But if 100 years of blank history are revealed, this sea will go berserk. He is inclined to prevent. However, as archaeologists, discovering the true meaning of history is what we should do. On the way home, Albia lowered her head and spoke softly. I know, Lu Chen nodded to express understanding. However, he changed the topic and said with a smile, I know a great country. The primary goal of archaeological excavations in it is not to obtain the historical truth. Rather than pursuing the truth of historical times, scholars in this country are more willing to protect the traces of history. This kind of behavior is called rescue archaeology. If knowing the truth will bring disaster to the world, I believe that scholars in that great country would prefer to let the truth be buried in history. After all, history represents the past, and we represent the future. Lu Chen's tone was very calm, with a hint of smile. But listening to it in Albia was undoubtedly like thunder exploding. This unprecedented understanding of history shocked this proud scholar. But what if knowing the truth about history can make the world a better place? However, Albia has been pursuing history for many years, so naturally he will not be convinced. Advertisement, history will not make the world a better place. In response, Lu Chen directly shook his head in denial. What if buried in the blank 100-year-old truth is a method or tool to make the world a better place? Albia retorted with puffed cheeks. Instead of placing hope in the nihilistic historical truth, it is better to use the motivation of pursuit to make yourself stronger. Lu Chen lowered his head and glanced at Robin, who was sleeping soundly, and said with a smile, I can change the world. The tone is very gentle, however, his attitude was very firm. A peaceful and beautiful world, a world worthy of our daughters. This sentence, if someone else said it, Albia might not take it seriously, but coming from Lu Chen's mouth, the meaning is different. World government has ruled the world for hundreds of years. It is not easy to change. Why? But she still couldn't believe it. It's not that he has no confidence in Lu Chen, but he knows that the powerful Yamato of world government is terrifying. If you want to achieve something, just take it one step at a time and don't be impatient. Lu Chen pushed the stroller with one hand, held Albia's slender waist with the other, and said lightly, So, first, crush the faith of the pirates in this sea. Peaceful days always pass very quickly, unconsciously. From sleepy baby to toddler. This year, Lu Chen took off his military uniform and stayed with his mother and daughter all the time. Sighed. It can be said that Lu Chen has not been absent from every step of Robin's growth from birth to now. Period. Long also came to Ohara secretly, and with Lu Chen 293's permission, he secretly glanced at Robin, and then was kicked away by Lu Chen with red eyes. And ever since Robin started talking, Brother Garp has been calling me frequently. Miraculously, Brother Garp and Robin can actually communicate for a long time. Although neither of them knew what the other was talking about, every call was accompanied by laughter. During this period of time, the sea was in a state of flux. But even so, Garp never mentioned the pirates to Lu Chen every time the phone bug came over. And Lu Chen, although he knew what happened, but he didn't want to talk about it. Because it's not time yet. Daddy, Dad, Robin made a sweet sound, opened her hands, and staggered towards Lu Chen. The chubby body is full of cuteness despite its clumsiness. Haha, be a good girl. Lu Chen knelt down and picked up little Robin, and kissed her hard on the cheek. When Albia who was following behind saw this, a happy smile appeared on her fair cheeks. Wow, suddenly, there was movement in the sky. Countless seagulls flew in from afar. They were densely packed, covering the sky, and the scene was extremely spectacular. What's going on? Is there any big news? This must be big news. When the residents of Ohara saw this, they started talking one after another. In the courtyard, Lu Chen and Albia also noticed the movement and couldn't help but look up. There's something wrong with the sea, Albia said with a surprised look on his face. It is very rare to see such a terrifying flock of seagulls flying. That's why Albia felt so reluctant and sad. After just one glance, her cheeks turned pale. Oh, it seems something big has happened. Lu Chen hugged Robin with a meaningful smile on his lips. His eyes followed Lu Chen, Albia bent down and picked up a newspaper. Albia gritted his teeth and said the title of the newspaper. Really? That's an incredible feat. Even so, the newspaper hasn't fallen yet. There is a deep sense of reluctance and attachment. However, in my heart, I was vaguely looking forward to it. The time, it seems, has arrived. Lu Chen, on the other hand, didn't even look at it, and started to have fun while holding little Robin. The Roger Pirates circle the world and are called the Pirate King by the world. With such an unprecedented event, as a marine hero, it is obvious that he cannot stay here any longer. But everyone has already felt the huge shock caused by the content of the news report. Just thinking about it. Newspapers all over the sky were like snowflakes, scattered by seagulls. Chapter 107. Uncle, give me a hug, please customize. Advertisement, aren't you worried? Albia noticed Lu Chen's subtle emotions and asked with big eyes in confusion. This is a huge event related to the future of the sea. It is not difficult to imagine that the birth of the Pirate King will have a profound impact on the sea, which is unprecedented. But Lu Chen showed an indifferent attitude. Albia was speechless. If you don't know, it's hard to connect Lu Chen with Marine's legendary hero. Although she knew this man very well, for some reason, she always felt that there was a mysterious veil deep in Lu Chen's soul, which she could not covet. But even so, Albia's female intuition was still very certain that it was not a malicious secret. At least, for her mother and daughter, not only is there no malice, but they are full of heavy and deep love. Worry about what? In response, Lu Chen hugged little Robin and smiled lightly. The birth of One Piece means that the pirates in this sea finally have a new pursuit, which is good. Compared to the previous pirates who wanted to conquer the world at every turn, the new pursuit can reduce the pirates' ambition to conquer the world. I have to say that these words make sense. As a result, Albia didn't know how to refute for a while. But the birth of the Pirate King will also have a greater impact. Many people will go to sea for this purpose and become a steady stream of pirates. Albia said with a bitter smile. This is what she meant by worry. As the number of pirates increases, the balance of the sea will gradually tilt. At that time, justice will have no time to take care of itself, so what dignity is left in ordinary desperate efforts? I know, but in the same way, Marine will expand its military accordingly and will always maintain a delicate balance. Lu Chen said with a smile. There is really no need to say more about the balance deliberately created by the world government. Especially for Marine's top brass. Then will you leave? Albia hugged Lu Chen, her white neck raised, her eyes rippling, containing deep reluctance and attachment. The company during these days made the archaeologist feel unprecedented happiness. If possible, she would rather give up all archaeology in exchange for Lu Chen's company. But, she also knows that as a marine hero, she must not retreat at this time. Therefore, although the tone is reluctant, but he will not make a request to stay. Because, that is living up to the sea, a leave. Lu Chen nodded directly in response. The words fell. Albia's big eyes dimmed, and her cheeks were full of reluctance and sadness. Even the little Robin in Lu Chen's arms raised his fleshy little hand, held Lu Chen's handsome cheek, and stared at him with dark eyes. Dad, don't go, Robin shouted in a sweet voice. Obviously, although the little girl doesn't know what her parents are talking about, she at least knows what leaving means. What I mean by leaving may be somewhat different from what you understand. In response, Lu Chen couldn't help but explained. As long as I get off work, I'll be back. Deep down in his heart, he hated the sea and its habit of often abandoning wives and children. And as a child who grew up under the red flag, naturally, he would not do such an inhumane thing. Come back after get off work. Albia was stunned. Okay, Dad, come back from get off work, give me a hug. Little Robin was very happy, opened his hands and cheered in victory. Although I don't know what it means to get off work, I just know what it means to come back. Would you like to visit naval headquarters? Suddenly, Lu Chen looked at Gu Albia with a smile and asked. Hear the words. Albia was stunned. However, she instinctively shook her head and refused, saying, Robin is still young. This time at sea. The words are not finished yet. Lu Chen held little Robin in one hand and Albia's waist in the other. He smiled lightly and said, let's go and play with Uncle. Uncle, okay. Hearing the word, Uncle, little Robin became even more happy and danced excitedly. Albia looked confused, but the next moment, the look of confusion on her face turned into deep horror. The picture in his sight became blurry in an instant, and the sky and the earth were like the colors of the scroll, turning into watercolor again, forming streams flowing around him. Being in it feels like being in the void at the origin of time and space. Even the flesh and blood nerves of the body cannot be felt. But, this feeling, come quickly, advertisement disappear faster. It seemed like a blink of an eye, it seems like a long time has passed. In an instant, bursts of warmth came from the strong palms on his waist. The picture in sight, it also changed from the green wilderness to the interior of a spacious office. Lu Chen, what's going on? The sudden change shocked Albia, and she held Lu Chen's hands harder. Here we come, this is the Naval Headquarters Scientific Research Department, my office. Lu Chen smiled lightly, as soon as this statement came out. Albia thought she had heard wrongly, and her face became confused. However, looking at Lu Chen's wicked smile, she quickly realized that it was true. We came to Naval Headquarters from O'Hara, West Blue to the first half of the Grand Line? How long did it take us? How is it possible? What kind of capability is this? Even the fastest ship needs more than 10 days to sail from Ohara to naval headquarters. I must have fallen asleep, and then you brought me here. But my mental state is not as good as after sleeping for more than 10 days. The Flying Thunder God technique's teleportation directly made this knowledgeable archaeologist become confused. Wow, Dad, what's wrong with you, magic? But at this moment, little Robin shouted excitedly, causing Orbia to break through her defense. Did not expect. From West Blue to naval headquarters in an instant, it turned out to be true. However, she still couldn't believe it, this was the naval headquarters. It is even suspected that it was just a research institute hidden in Ohara that Lu Chen used some kind of ability to allow them to travel through. Brother, I'm back, come down here. Lu Chen didn't bother to explain this, so he carried Robin to the back of the desk and sat down, then dialed Garp's phone number. After saying one sentence, he hung up without waiting for the other party to respond. Hear this. Albia's fair face was flushed and nervous, and her whole person became restrained and uneasy. Just like being afraid of meeting your parents' daughter-in-law. His big eyes looked at Lu Chen as if asking for help. Although my brother is a little rude, he is still a very nice person. Lu Chen smiled lightly. Even though he said this, a Marine Admiral, just by his name, is enough to intimidate everyone in the world. Even so, it's Lu Chen's brother, after all, Albia has never seen it before. Deep down, I was naturally uneasy. Little Robin, on the other hand, opened his big black eyes in surprise and kept shouting happily. Da da da. Not long after, there were bursts of rapid and dull footsteps. Approach the office from far to near, no one has arrived yet. The rough noise full of resentment came through. UB ******** D little brother, have you finally remembered that you still have the identity of Marine? As a man, you must have a broad mind. Personal relationships between children will only. The words are not finished yet. Boom, the office door was violently pushed open. A burly man with 2 stacks of Madara white short hair and thick black hair walked in. However, when he saw the scene in the office, his originally angry face suddenly turned into confusion. The next second, he reacted and the confusion on his face instantly turned into deep joy. Little Robin. The tone was full of shock and disbelief. Uncle, little Robin in Lu Chen's arms opened her mouth wide with a look of surprise on her face. Although I have never seen it, but Garp's voice has been imprinted in Xiao Luomian's mind. When you hear it now, you can confirm it immediately. This was the uncle who had always made her happy. Uncle, give me a hug. The little girl broke free from Lu Chen's arms, staggered, opened her hands awkwardly, and walked straight towards Garp. The dignified Marine Admiral subconsciously took half a step back when he saw little Robin approaching. There was a hint of fear in his eyes, but the next moment, he accepted it. Kakuzu carefully knelt down and gently picked up Robin. His old face was full of smiles, and his happy eyes had tears in his eyes. It looked like it was holding a peerless treasure. Little Robin, you finally came to see Uncle Tien. Garp smiled broadly. The rough arms were held carefully, not daring to use force at all, and the whole body was tense. Advertisement, even the tone of his speech was gentler than ever before. Uncle, beard. Little Robin giggled and went to pluck Garp's beard with his chubby little hands. Garp was made to laugh and cry, but he didn't dare to stop him. This scene, if seen by outsiders, would definitely be shocking. Anyway, Albia was shocked. The majestic Marine Admiral's Garp the Fist actually has such a gentle and lovely side. The banter between the adults and the children lasted for quite a while before they calmed down a bit. You be ******* D little brother, you brought little Robin here just now. It's really unforgivable. Garp hugged Robin and turned to glare at Lu Chen and complained. Then, he put on a smile and thanked Albia. Thank you for taking care of my D brother these days. You are busy taking care of little Robin, and you have to take care of this vulgar and rude guy. It's really too much, thanks for your hard work. Ah, Uncle is too polite, and Mr. Lu Chen is very patient with us. Albia was flattered and waved her hands with a forced smile. If he wants to teach an outstanding girl like little Robin, his little patience is not enough. Garp's face darkened, he glared at Lu Chen and said solemnly. It's Uncle, little Robin, excellent, great. Hearing Garp's appreciation, little Robin excitedly waved his little hands and shouted. Lu Chen couldn't laugh or cry about this, but also lazy. What to say, he slowly stood up and clapped his hands. Okay, let's come here first for the family reunion. Lu Chen smiled lightly and said, Marine must be very busy right now. Hear the words. Garp nodded solemnly. Then he apologetically put down little Robin and handed it to Albia, then turned around and left the office with a look of reluctance. Behind him, Lu Chen waved his hand and followed him out. For a moment, his appearance shocked everyone in the science headquarters. Everyone thought they had seen it wrong. After the two brothers arrived at a deserted place, Garp turned to stare at him and asked. Why are you back suddenly? I haven't heard any news before. I just suddenly wanted to come back, so I came back. Lu Chen spread his hands and said, also, little Robin has mentioned many times that he wants to meet your uncle. Hear this. Garp's face was full of smiles, quite bright. Then you shouldn't leave. Kong will probably find you later. Why don't you just stay at the headquarters and I can play with Ronaldinho often? I thought before that Garp focused on responsibility. But in the end, it was all about playing with little Robin. The child is still young, so it's not good to stay in the headquarters. Lu Chen politely rejected this suggestion. Then do you feel free to let little Robin and her mother go back alone? Garp was anxious. I'll send them back and then come back. It takes a lot of time to go back and forth this time. Garp said unwillingly. Wang Haohao, it is rare, well-founded and irrefutable. Chen didn't refute, just raised his hand slightly and put it on Garp's shoulder. Buzz. The space vibrated slightly. The two people who were still alive just now became blurry in an instant, and then disappeared from the place. It was as if it had never appeared before, until 10 minutes later. Buzz. The space shook again. Chen put his arm around Garp's shoulders and reappeared here. What an amazing ability. Garp looked around in surprise, his face full of surprise and shock. Although your idea is perfect, I'm afraid the world government won't agree to it. But if it can be implemented, Marine's influence in the new world will reach unprecedented levels. Garp chuckled, raised his hand and punched Chen on the shoulder. The Marine Admiral seems to be in a high position, but he can't sail the sea to fight pirates, and can only be reduced to guarding those holy places. The dormant of the powerful. With you here, I believe the future of this sea will be even more exciting. The tone contained unreserved trust and support for Chen. These 10 minutes disappeared. It can be said that this completely gave Garp a different perspective on the stinky brother in front of him. For this reason, he is willing to do his best to help. After the two brothers finished their serious talk, they returned to the office together. Uncle, give me a hug. When they met for the first time, the old and young friends started playing around like they were familiar with each other. Albia is also happy to see this. But at this time, the outside world had already set off a huge storm that swept the world because of the crazy content of the newspapers. No one can survive this storm alone. Even if it's marine, it's all like this. Chapter 108. Amir Pirate King, please customize. Advertisement. Outside, the legendary pirate, the Roger Pirates, circled the world and arrived at the legendary Ultimate Island. Is it true? Is the legend true? That's something that the world government has always banned? No one has ever gotten there in hundreds of years. Roger is the first person to reach the Ultimate Island. The king of this sea was finally born. He is out and out. One Piece. Wealth, fame, power, the man who has everything, the Pirate King Gold Roger. There are heated discussions in every corner of the world. This man conquered the sea, finally reached the Ultimate Island, and obtained the great secret treasure. Especially the scholars were inspired and felt excited about it. An unprecedented event that subverts our understanding. Shocked the whole world. First of all, the world government immediately dispatched the most powerful CP spy and did everything possible to collect information about Roger. Secondly, he ordered the naval headquarters to hunt down the members of the Roger Pirates. Especially for Roger, a man called the Pirate King by everyone in the sea, an unprecedented and crazy pursuit was carried out. However, the pursuit has not yet begun. At this moment, the Roger Pirates suddenly disappeared from the sea. Even the Jackson with the Roger Pirates disappeared from the sight of the world. A huge fleet was assembled, like a five-fingered fist. But at this time, world government's punch hit the air directly. The huge organization that has ruled the world for hundreds of years has the power to destroy everything, but it is useless. Red Line, Holy Land Marijoy, World Government Headquarters Building. The magnificent meeting hall. Marshal Kong stepped in. The world government's highest power controllers, who had been waiting for a long time, sat upright one after another, their expressions more solemn than ever before. The atmosphere is very depressing. What Roger did has been reported before, but we didn't expect that he actually succeeded. The middle-aged man with gray curly hair and a scar on his face said regretfully. When he challenged Charlotte Linlin and Whitebeard, I knew this man had a crazy plan. The old man with long white hair said calmly. Although Yinruo had some crazy information about him, who would have thought that this guy actually did it? The middle-aged man with short blonde hair said in a deep voice. The Ultimate Island is said to hold the answer to the fate of the world. If outsiders know about it, it will trigger panic in all countries. The old man with a white curly beard gritted his teeth and said. Finally, the bald old man wearing a white kimono and wiping his sword sneered. What's the use of talking about this now? Let's think about how to remedy it. He raised his head, stared at Kong with sharp eyes, and said, the balance of the sea has been broken again. If it is not repaired in time, I think everyone knows how serious the consequences will be. As soon as these words came out, the five elders all looked towards Kong. As the highest general of Marine, Marshal, it is his duty to maintain the balance of the sea. Roger has disappeared. It's not easy to find him. At this time, more than half a month had passed since the news report. No matter how quickly the world government and naval headquarters respond. But the Roger Pirates suddenly disappeared from the sea, catching everyone by surprise. Advertisement actually, not to mention naval headquarters and world government. Those pirates and major forces who want to seize the great secret treasure from the Roger Pirates. I can't even react. No one thought that the Roger Pirates, who had completed the unprecedented feat of circumnavigating the world, would suddenly disappear from this sea, as if they had never appeared before. There are already faint rumors on the sea. The Roger Pirates had dispersed on their way back. The authenticity cannot be confirmed yet. I will let the CP spy agency use all means to track Roger's whereabouts. The middle-aged five elders with short blonde hair said lightly. What's Marine's next move? I think you should plan it early. The bald old man in kimono said in a deep voice. Don't worry about it. Kong crossed his arms and said calmly. The birth of the Pirate King affects everyone in the sea. The number of new thieves is increasing day by day. I think everyone should be aware of it. If that's the case, then there's no need for me to be verbose. With Marine's current strength, it's difficult to deal with the overwhelming number of pirates. It has to be said that Marine's strength at this time is unprecedentedly tense. There is simply not enough power to take care of this sea. And this, as the most powerful people in the world government, the 5 elders naturally know it. The strength of your Marines is already strong enough. It seems unnecessary to expand the army. If you want to scare the pirates, you must find another way. The old man with a bald head and glasses shook his head, and immediately took out a stack of documents from his clothes and handed it over, saying, "This is a plan we have discussed for a long time. If you Marine confirm that you cannot maintain the balance of the sea, then we will start this plan. Hear the words. Marshal Kong frowned, doubtful in his heart, and took the document. 7 warlords of the sea plan. After watching for a while, his face turned pale and he suddenly raised his head to stare at 5 elders. I know it's hard for you to accept, but you can think about it for a moment. Only in this way can those pirates restrain themselves. Besides, isn't it exactly what you Marines like to see, letting pirates kill each other? Of course, this is just a concept and has not been implemented yet. It's a matter of looking at the subsequent impacts on this sea. In other words, whether to launch this plan or not depends on you Marine." Each of the 5 elders spoke one sentence at a time. It seems to be explaining, but in fact it is putting pressure on naval headquarters. CHBB, solve as soon as possible the impact of Roger's circumnavigation of the world. Understood. If there's nothing else, I'll leave first. Holding the document with both hands, Marshal Kong tried his best to suppress the anger in his heart, and his expression was ugly. Lu Chen's vacation should be over. At this time, the middle-aged man with white curly hair wearing a black hat suddenly spoke. At this moment, we need him to boost Marine morale. His most recent seriousness was the capture of the Golden Lion Shiki during the Battle of the Wall. After such a long rest, it's time to come back to the headquarters. We might as well let him go out to sea and have a look. The other 5 elders also spoke one after another, and Density was quite sure of this. I will contact him, Marshal Kong nodded, then turned and left. His anger. The 5 elders know it all, but he didn't care. As long as the balance of the sea is maintained, not to mention activating the 7 warlords of the sea organization, even if Roger is put in peace, it will be fine. Advertisement. The problem is, there is no way Roger can be imprisoned. West Blue, O'Hara, squeak. The door to the cabin was opened. Lu Chen, neatly dressed in the righteous Marine uniform, walked out slowly. Behind him is Albia holding little Robin. It has been more than half a month since I returned from naval headquarters. After being fermented by Roger's influence, Marshal Kong finally thought of the existence of Lu Chen. No, a phone call came and he was asked to return to his headquarters immediately. Although Lu Chen agreed to go back, but to avoid being too shocking, it ended up being delayed for several days. Take care along the way, Albia shouted with a forced smile. Dad, come back from get off work, give me a hug. Little Robin seemed to understand that his father was about to leave, and his little face suddenly became aggrieved. After all, there was a separation from my uncle before. So I also understand the sadness of parting. I'm just going back to my headquarters, it won't take long, I'll be back soon. Lu Chen raised his hand to stroke Albia's hair and smiled lightly. The words fell, his figure gradually became blurred. Finally, it disappeared from the eyes of Albia and little Robin. Ooh, Dad is gone, I'm not happy. Robin immediately broke down and started crying with tears in his eyes. And just then, Lu Chen appears in the Marine Scientific Research Department of Marineford. He quietly left his department and walked straight towards the Naval Headquarters building. The atmosphere in the headquarters has been a bit dull recently. The air seemed very oppressive. Whether it is the Marine soldiers at the grassroots level or the generals at the top, all of them look solemn and worried. OBJ. Suddenly, a Marine soldier let out a trembling scream. Heaven, Vice Admiral. When the name came out, it instantly attracted the attention of countless people. The focus is on a young man who looks quite young, handsome, and has long black hair. He is slender and medium-sized, but in the eyes of everyone at this moment, he is as majestic as a mountain. Nothing else, because it's Vice Admiral, Marine legendary hero. A being who had refused promotion to Admiral 23 times. At this moment, his appearance instantly caused a huge sensation in the entire headquarters. Ha ha ha, what a pirate king, that's because Vice Admiral is not here. Yes, we have a heavenly punishment Vice Admiral, just a pirate king, why should we be careful? Heavenly punishment Vice Admiral returns from vacation and will definitely make the pirates in this sea fearful. I can't wait to see the impact of homecoming. As long as the Vice Admiral is around, the pirates will be prepared to become rats crossing the street. Countless people are talking about it. One after another, Lord Lu Chen, Vice Admiral, Lord Heavenly Punishment, one after another, one after another. Chapter 109. Conquer Wano-kuni and arrest Kazuki Oden, please customize. Advertisement. Lu Chen's return to the headquarters dispelled the depressive atmosphere that had enveloped Marineford for many days. Marine morale has also risen from the bottom to an unprecedented level. Meeting room. Haha, it's great to have you back, Lu Chen. Marshal Kong's face, which had always been solemn, now broke out into a smile, and said, where have you been during these days? It's all about cultivation. In response, Lu Chen smiled lightly. As soon as this statement came out, except Garp had expected it. There are also some speculations by Commander He and Sengoku. The rest of the Marine senior generals all took a breath of cold air. Even Marshal Kong opened his eyes wide and felt unbelievable when he looked at Lu Chen. To know, there are almost no exceptions in this world. When strength reaches a certain level, it will enter a period of slow growth. Even, it will stagnate. Lu Chen's strength is undoubtedly the most top-notch existence in this sea. But you can still encounter problems in cultivation. Obviously, for Lu Chen, his current strength is not his limit. This monster-like qualification makes everyone envious. Ahem, now that Lu Chen is back, let this meeting officially begin. Putting away his envious thoughts, Marshal Kong turned to look at Crane Vice Admiral and said solemnly, "The birth of the Pirate King will be an unprecedented challenge for us Marine." This meeting gathered most of the top Marine generals. Even Zephyr, who was on duty in the Holy Land, was allowed to come back for a while. Marine Marshals, 3 Admirals, 16 Naval Headquarters Vice Admirals, and 28 Headquarters Rear Admirals. Among them, there are many powerful Marines who are famous in the original work. Of course, if Lu Chen doesn't come back, then the most eye-catching thing will naturally be Marine's new generation of monsters. Exactly, people like Sakazuki and Kuzan who are still Rear Admiral today. The new generation monster with supreme prestige among the Marines looked at Lu Chen, but his eyes were full of heat and blazing energy. Even the careless Kizaru stopped showing his indifference. Everyone's waist is unconsciously straightened. This meeting is related to the future of this sea, and even more so, the future of our Marine. After receiving the signal from Marshal Kong, Crane Vice Admiral opened the desktop file and said calmly, "First of all, the birth of the Pirate King affects many pirates all the time, causing the number of new pirates to increase day by day. The balance of the sea has long been tilted. The birth of the Pirate King has caused countless new pirates to increase in the world. Marine's current strength is not enough to cover so many sea areas. If Roger's influence cannot be eliminated in a short period of time, I think everyone knows that the balance will definitely be broken. By then, Marine will be tired of dealing with the increasing number of pirates, and it will naturally neglect other places." Crane Vice Admiral paused for a moment, opened a page of documents again, and said solemnly, "In order to deal with this situation, the people in power of the world government came up with an idea." Having said this, she slowly raised her head, and the adjutant standing aside quickly placed documents one by one in front of each general's door. The sound of files being opened came and went all of a sudden. However, as everyone watched, the atmosphere in the conference room suddenly dropped to freezing point. Their expressions changed from solemn just now to anger and humiliation. Advertisement in the field. Only Lu Chen looked down at the cover of the document, but he didn't open it and folded his arms. On the cover, there are several universities, 7 warlords of the sea. With just one glance, he knew what the so-called concept of dealing with the threat of the sea was. Sakazuki, wearing a baseball cap, punched the table hard. The face with sharp angles was filled with bursts of fire. Damn it, recruiting pirates to be an independent organization apart from Marine and under the world government. Doesn't this mean that our Marine status is equal to that of this so-called Shichibukai? Sakazuki growled angrily. It's really scary. A pirate with a legal identity must be a headache. Kizaru curled his lips and said teasingly, "Legal pirate? To become a Marine is to stand on the opposite side of justice. I didn't expect that I could become legal." Kuzan's face turned dark. All 3 new generation monsters are like this. Others were even more likely to curse. Garp and Zephyr lowered their heads, folded their arms, and fell silent. Having pirates scare pirates from one side is an idea that only the world government can come up with. Sengoku pushed up the frame of the mirror and said expressionlessly, "Although I am happy to see pirates fighting each other, if Shichibukai has a legal identity, he is secretly against Marine. That would be a waste of our strength. This is just a concept. Whether it will be implemented or not, the world government has not decided yet." At this time, Marshal Kong glanced at everyone and said solemnly, "But if Roger's influence cannot be eliminated, I believe that the world government will definitely implement this plan." Hearing this, everyone agreed. Although, Marine belongs to a violent organization under the world government. However, generals who can become Marine's top leaders are more or less aware of the dark side of world government. Naturally, I cannot say that I have much respect for the world government. It's just that it's your duty and you have to do it as a last resort. Yes, so let's continue with the content of the meeting and what we need to do in the face of the birth of the Pirate King. Crane Vice Admiral followed Marshal Kong and guided the topic, saying, "You know, it is rumored that the Roger pirates have disbanded on their way back, and all the members of the pirates have disappeared into the vast sea, not to mention Roger, the Pirate King." Hear the words. Everyone was silent, all staring with big eyes. If you lose the target's whereabouts, you will lose your motivation. After a while, everyone started talking. According to previous intelligence, we can start the investigation from Roger's enemies. Roger has many enemies, but there are very few enemies that Roger can recognize. Whitebeard is one of them. So, do you want Marine at this stage to provoke a Whitebeard? Other than that, what else can be done? Roger's hometown, East Blue, can be found here. We have already investigated before and found that Roger did not go back to East Blue. OV. Unfortunately, no matter what the proposal is, it is not suitable for today's Marine. Lu Chen, do you think there is anything we can do at this stage? At this time, Marshal Kong turned his head and looked at Lu Chen, with a trace of expectation in his eyes. Please give me flowers. In fact, he had been paying attention to Lu Chen's reaction from the beginning of the meeting. Advertisement Marshal K. Kong was disappointed. Lu Chen was like an audience, sitting quietly and patiently listening to everyone's discussions. But he himself seemed to be outside, therefore, Kong Yuan Shu has to take the initiative. Otherwise, it is estimated that Lu Chen will remain quiet like this. And as Marshal Kong's words fell, the conference room, which had been buzzing with discussion just now, fell silent in an instant. Everyone's eyes unconsciously focused on Lu Chen. Mr. Kong, actually I don't have any good plans? Sensing that something was wrong with the atmosphere in the conference room, Lu Chen waved his hands repeatedly and said with a smile. Even if there is, it's probably not worth trying. The previous sentence made everyone, including Marshal Kong, feel a little disappointed and regretful. But the last sentence instantly aroused everyone's desire for discovery. Only Garp had an imperceptible smile on his lips. Lu Chen, if you have anything to say, just say it. As long as there is a chance, we will try our best. Marshal Kong's eyes widened and his tone became anxious. I wonder if Mr. Kong still remembers the Wano-kuni he mentioned to me before? Lu Chen smiled lightly. Wano-kuni. Of course I remember it, but what does it have to do with today's Roger? Of course, do you remember that before the Roger Pirates circled the world, there was an extra samurai from Wano-kuni on the ship? The samurai from Whitebeard's ship. After hearing Lu Chen's words, Marshal Kong seemed to have thought of something, and his pupils suddenly shrank. As for other people, as long as they understand the background of the warrior, they will guess something. Yes, it is that samurai, Kazuki family from Wano-kuni, Kazuki Oden, bounty, 1.8 billion belly. Lu Chen said lightly, as soon as this statement came out. The marine generals present, including Marshal Kong, felt unbelievable. So, Mr. Kong, is this plan worth trying? Lu Chen tilted his head slightly and looked at Marshal Kong with a faint smile. Conquer Wano-kuni and arrest Kazuki Oden. It is really. Of course it's not necessary, but if this samurai is Wano-kuni's general and is equivalent to the royal heir of a country, do you think it is still necessary? If the target is just a samurai, there is no need to target a country, right? Lu Chen smiled lightly. Hiss, the words fell. Seeing that everyone was in high spirits, Lu Chen continued. But I don't know if the big shots in the Holy Land will allow Marine to conquer Wano-kuni. Upon hearing his words, gasps of cold air rang out in the conference room immediately. Everyone who was confused just now cheered up. How did Wano-kuni's general successor become a pirate? This information is too explosive. Many generals in the conference room felt their blood rising and wanted to set out immediately to arrest the evil samurai of the Roger Pirates. At this time, Kuzan suddenly frowned and asked, if you want to find Roger, the first step is Wano-kuni. Chapter 110. Kaido. That be ***** D Laozi, please customize. Advertisement others don't know, but Marshal Kong naturally has a very good understanding of Wano-kuni. In an instant, cold sweat broke out on his forehead. That is a country belonging to warriors. If we rush to conquer it, I'm afraid it will have a bad impact. Marshal Kong was not confident and said, I need to report this matter to the Holy Land before I can make a decision. The meeting was dismissed. To be honest, Lu Chen's plan can be said to succeed in one fell swoop. Recently, the Marine Scientific Research Department has spent a lot of money on sea stone in order to develop a warship that can sail the calm belt. Wano-kuni is home to 99% of the world's sea stone. Whether it is naval headquarters or world government, if they want to obtain sea stone, they need to trade with Wano-kuni indirectly or directly from different channels. So, if Wano-kuni falls into Marine's hands, the production of sea stone will be controlled by naval headquarters. Secondly, if Kazuki Oden can be arrested, some information about Roger can be obtained. So it will be a great help in hunting down Roger. At last, Wano-kuni's unique terrain makes it easy to defend but difficult to attack. If Marine can be stationed in it, it will be like a 383 needle that penetrates deep into the hinterland of New World and affects the sea area of New World. Whether it's a big pirate or other forces, at this time, if you want to be unscrupulous in the New World, you need to think carefully. But the outside world knows very little about the country of samurai, but Marshal Kokong still knows from various channels that there is powerful force there. So, the conquest of Wano-kuni was a very significant military operation. If you act rashly, Marine's power may be compromised. Moreover, the mysterious warrior country is inextricably related to the big figures in the Holy Land. This is the reason why Marshal Kong needs to report to the Holy Land. But before that, he still wanted to listen to Lu's opinion on this. When the meeting dispersed, Lu Chen was deliberately left behind. After everyone left, Marshal Kong turned to look at Lu Chen. Since you can propose this plan, you must have gone through the process. I need to hear your opinion. He paused briefly and continued, this is the key to whether the world government allows the action. If we defeat you, I will guard it. In this regard, Lu Chen only said this. And this sentence is enough. Carrying a heavy responsibility, Kong left the headquarters building again and went straight to the holy place Marijoy. Not surprisingly, the plan to attack Wano-kuni and arrest Kazuki Oden was directly rejected by the five elders. Rushly attacking a country may cause unrest in all countries. Even if Kazuki Oden is guilty, as the heir to General Wano-kuni, he can only be arrested secretly. Besides, conquering a country with the strength of samurai will result in heavy losses. If Marine suffers further losses, it will have no choice but to start other plans. Even if you attack, if you don't have enough strength to defend, sooner or later you will fall to thousands of other forces. Upon hearing Marshal Kong's proposal, the five elders objected without hesitation. As they say, The Marine at this stage does not have enough power to penetrate deep into the belly of the New World. That would only disperse the power and make it difficult to maintain stability in other sea areas. Of course. Advertisement most importantly, the world government doesn't want to change too much. Maintain the existing balance. That's what the 5 elders want. Find Roger, perform a public execution, and neutralize the impact. As for how to find the first step, this is not what 5 elders needs to consider. Got this reply. Marshal Kong was already prepared in his heart, but he still felt full of anger and aggrieved. Before leaving, he dropped a word and turned around to leave. It is better for Wano Kuni to fall into the hands of Marine than to fall into the hands of other forces. Moreover, Chen has agreed to garrison Wano Kuni. After finishing speaking, before the 5 elders could respond, the person walked away. The magnificent meeting hall. The 5 elders looked at each other with complex expressions and solemn eyes. However, he still didn't let go. Time flies by. 3 months later. Roger's whereabouts have still not been found. The number of pirates emerging in the sea is increasing day by day, showing a geometric increase in number. It can be said, the impact of the birth of One Piece is even more profound and significant than that of rocks back then. Marine's power deployed throughout the sea seems to be stretched thin at this moment. Gollum, Porcupine, O'Hara, Chen, who had just finished coaxing little Robin to take a nap, walked out of the cabin alone. Take out a small telephone and make a call. Point. In less than 3 seconds, the phone was answered and turned into a slightly older man with a surprised appearance. How are the personnel you have recently trained? Chen smiled lightly. Have you found those children? I found him, 1 step ahead of the world government, and he was selected from the orphanage by me. The phone bug's voice was slightly excited as he said, Thank you, Mr. Chen, for your guidance and letting me know the real heir. From now on, we will continue to serve Lord Chen. The first half of the Grand Line, on the decks of 10 sailing merchant ships. The man with gray hair and a hint of old age in his eyes held the phone bug in both hands and shouted with great respect. On the deck behind him, there were several boys looking over curiously. One of the boys, he is only a few years old, but his calmness is scary. Lucci, why are you in contact with Wei? The child next to him asked doubtfully. The child named Lucci looked cold, as if he didn't hear anything about it. He just walked to the side and sat down, looking at Kiriku's back quietly, not knowing what he was thinking. And this time, Kiriku was full of respect and gratitude. If it weren't for Lord Chen's rescue, I would have been executed by the celestial dragons. Aha! Did you suddenly become sensational? The phone bug transformed into Chen and said speechlessly. Let's stop chatting. I'm looking for you this time because I need you to pass on the message. Advertisement, what news? Kiriku was shocked and asked in a solemn tone. News from Wano Kuni. Hearing the words, Kiriku's eyes suddenly widened, and then he nodded heavily, saying that he would arrange it as soon as possible. Since the end of the Valley of the Gods incident, the former CPO spy leader Kiriku has been hiding incognito and walking in darkness. Now, as a die-hard supporter of Vice Admiral, he knows it very well. What to do next? Hang up on the phone bug. Kiriku turned to look at the children, his eyes shining with hope for the future. 3 days later, Morgan's news agency, World Economic Daily, once again issued blockbuster news that shocked the world. Newspapers flew crazily around the world. It caused an unprecedented uproar. The samurai on board the Roger Pirates, the heir to the general from Wano Kuni, are about to face a tragic future with the destruction of their country and their family. Kaido of the Beasts takes over Wano Kuni and becomes Lord Protector of the country. The end of the Kazuki family is coming, from the joint efforts of the Beasts Pirates and the black-haired family to suppress it. What is the future fate of Wano Kuni, who is caught in the flames of war? The exaggerated news headlines attracted the attention of countless people. Wano Kuni. What is Wano Kuni? Wano Kuni's general successor, what is that? Hey, now is the time to worry about these issues. That was the samurai who was on Roger's ship. Doesn't it mean that this samurai must have followed Roger and reached the ultimate island? Ha, Roger disappeared. Unexpectedly, his crew members were immediately suppressed by other pirates. It is rumored that Kaido started planning Wano Kuni a few years ago. Damn it, let him take the lead again. What Wano Kuni is going to do in the future, who should pay attention to these things? W. Laozi just wants to know what information Kaido got in Wano Kuni. That is related to the existence of the great secret treasure. Kaido cannot be allowed to be as beautiful as before 3.6. Run, go to Wano Kuni and find the clues to the big secret treasure. And he was also pushed to the edge of the storm. Similarly, the major forces and pirates are also gearing up. And as a party, countless people are talking about it. That B********D is Yin Laozi. Newcomers from all over the world are flying across the sea to chase the legendary secret treasure. The huge body of the green dragon rushed out of the skeleton building in an instant, submerged into the clouds, and let out bursts of dragon roars. Ghost Island. The frustration is completely beyond words. Unexpectedly, Wano Kuni was exposed, in order to get the big secret treasure. Before he even got anything, he was labeled by the world as someone who knew the clues to the great secret treasure. Target. Sword pointed at Wano Kuni. The strong men on the sea began to take action one after another. The emergence of breaking news has shaken the sea. An angry roar shook Wano Kuni's inner sea. For this great pirate, he has kept a low profile for many years and has not yet accumulated enough strength. Obviously.